Chapter 1. A New Book, Above Gods and Demons. The river of stars was vast. Experts could move mountains and fill seas. With a flick of their fingers, they could bring forth spring with a wave of their hands. They could step on stars and shake the world for 1,000 miles. Strands of starlight poured down into the world as stars were shattered incessantly and flames burned the heavens. In the boundless universe, there were billions of cultivators. All of them wanted to reach the peak of cultivation. The divine martial battle emperor had gone through many trials and tribulations. After countless years, there were only a few recorded divine martial battle emperors. Countless people fell into pools of blood and looked at the sky laughing at them. Their eyes gradually dimmed. Divine martial, battle emperor. To become a battle emperor, one must first open up the sea of qi, cultivate one's body, refine one's qi and blood, transform one's sea of bitterness, build one's grotto heaven, break through the revered martial artist, ignite the celestial gate and become an emperor. On Owl War Star, there were broken limbs and corpses everywhere. Blood flowed like a river and corpses covered millions of miles. Countless forces were suppressed. Yi Qinghan, who had single-handedly built the Yi clan, held the 7-foot berserk saber in his hand. It shone with a cold light and was not stained by a single drop of blood. His entire body was bathed in a river of blood and his blood was vigorous. It was ignited by the flames of the void and almost burned the heavens. His chest and thighs were pierced by iron chains. A few thick iron chains bound him, but they could not contain his violent and murderous aura. It was like a hurricane that swept across millions of miles. Following Yi Qinghan's furious gaze, the Yi clan's tens of millions of people had been slaughtered, and countless of their subordinate forces had been killed or injured. The survivors had either fled or surrendered, and a portion of their core members had been directly suppressed. The 7-colored light and the blood-red color intertwined and attached to the 7-foot berserk saber. It shook the laws of the void and layers of ripples spread out. The moonlight turned into waves and there was a sense of poignant beauty. Yi Qinghan. Hand over the divine martial imperial codex and I will spare your life. A loud shout pierced through the heavens. A middle-aged man in a golden battle robe held a rainbow sword and pointed it at Yi Qinghan from afar. Yi Qinghan had suffered heavy injuries, but he still stood proudly like a demon god. His chiseled handsome face was like the work of the gods. His face was as handsome as jade, and his face was filled with unwillingness. The spatial storm blew at his battle robes, making them flutter. A lock of hair covered half of his face, but the other half was enough to make the world lose its color. His body was as straight as a javelin. Looking at his wife being suppressed by the laws, his body was twisting. The 7-foot heavy saber shook violently, and the roar of dragons and tigers pierced through the river, shooting into the chaotic universe. A drop of tears of sorrow mixed with blood essence floated into the river. Yi Qinghan raised his head and stared at the stars. He was unwilling to let this end, but he didn't even have the chance to escape. The enemy's hundreds of revered martial artists had already imprisoned the war star of Ba Huang. Azura Qianye, Monarch Xinyi, how did they know that I have the divine martial imperial codex? How did they get past the defenses of my war star without alerting any spies? Yi Qinghan roared with grief and indignation in his heart. He did not understand and was confused. Azura Qianye was a Buddhist. He controlled the Buddhist teachings of the Shaolong region. His cultivation had reached the peak of revered martial artist, which was a small realm higher than Yi Qinghan. He often discussed Buddhism with Yi Qinghan. Normally, his Buddhist aura would shine, and he would not harm the lives of ants. He was kind to all living beings, and he had won Yi Qinghan's admiration. However, he would never have thought that he would be the one to lead the strong enemies and slaughter the Yi clan of Shaolong region. Monarch Xinyi was the peerless emperor of the Shaolong region. His battle prowess could split the heavens and earth, and he could kill enemies for thousands of miles. With a wave of his hand, he had established the 5th grade Xinyi dynasty. Yi Qinghan, stop struggling. Can you fight against 100 revered martial artists by yourself? Now that the Yi clan has been completely annihilated, only your wife is left. Your life is in danger. Hand over the divine martial secret codex and cripple your cultivation. Then, we will spare your life. Monarch Xin Yi said coldly. Divine martial imperial codex, he. You win, and you lose. Yi Qinghan grinned and smiled bitterly. The divine martial imperial codex could be cultivated to the divine martial great emperor realm. It was the only secret codex in the world that could allow humans to cultivate to the peak. However, the contents of the secret codex were difficult to understand. In 100 years, he had only cultivated to the 3rd level. He had only obtained 9 levels of the divine martial secret codex. The most important 3 levels had already disappeared in the boundless river. The incomplete divine martial secret codex allowed him to lead his clan to the 5th grade great clan. However, because of the divine martial secret codex, his clan was annihilated in a single night. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He looked at the collapsed Yi clan and the living beings under its influence. Sighs and miserable screams intertwined, roaring together with the cold wind, complaining to the heavens about the unfairness. Both sides were in a deadlock. They seemed to be stalling for time, waiting for something. Yi Qinghan looked at his wife Jian Shuai with a painful expression. His heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife. Bang! A loud explosion shook the river of stars. Outside Owl War Star, the bone sword Dao Peak collapsed. A sword light pierced through the rainbow. The supreme sword intent wreaked havoc in the river of stars. At this moment, even the auras of the experts on Owl War Star stagnated. That sword seemed to have destroyed their souls. Emperor Xin Yi and Shura Qianye's expressions changed. Their expressions were grave because the bone sword Dao Peak was inhabited by a peerless sword genius of the younger generation, Gu Qingyu. He was Yi Qinghan's best friend. He had been proud all his life, a sword and a brother. He lived with his sword, his back to the world. He rarely showed himself. He comprehended the supreme sword intent. Oh no, there might be a change in the plan. Emperor Xinye's expression changed greatly. It can't be changed. There are already 3 peak martial revered experts surrounding the bone sword Dao Peak. Gu Qingyu is only a mid-martial revered expert. No matter how monstrous he is, he can't overturn the heavens. Shura Qianyi coldly said. What? Your plan actually included Brother Qingyu. No wonder you sent Brother Xikong Cheng to the ancient battlefield in advance. You've been scheming for the Imperial Codex since then. Yi Qinghan's face was deathly pale. The reason why he was stalling for time was to buy time for his brother to bring his wife away. He never thought that his last hope would turn into despair. Asterisk drip, 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 asterisk blood essence dripped down drop by drop. As time passed, Yi Qinghan gradually despaired. Even if he cultivated the supreme technique, the divine martial imperial codex, it was impossible for him to defeat 3 peak martial revered experts. No matter how heaven-defying Gu Qingyu's sword was, it would be difficult for him to escape death. Before the 3 peak martial revered experts returned, Shura Qianyi and Emperor Xinyi did not dare to approach Yi Qinghan. After all, he had already killed 3 peak martial revered experts. Owl War Star was deathly silent. It was so quiet that it made one's hair stand on end. The people on Owl War Star were in despair. They constantly roared, but their voices were isolated by the power of the laws outside. The bone sword Dao Peak had completely collapsed. Sword Qi and True Yuan illuminated 10,000 li. The nearby dead stars were constantly exploding. Monstrous flames were like beautiful fireworks in the universe. A sword Qi suddenly shot towards Owl War Star. The ruthless sword Qi made Yi Qinghan excited. The 7-foot heavy berserker saber in his hand trembled unceasingly as if it was going to break the heaven and earth. Asterisk Hong, asterisk 3 figures followed behind the sword Qi. Blood sprayed out from their bodies. They had all suffered heavy injuries. However, Gu Qingyu's injuries were even more severe. Die! Yi Qinghan exploded. He brandished the berserker saber and slashed the mountains and rivers. The earth collapsed as he launched his most terrifying attack. A huge tiger roared in the horizon, hoping to buy Gu Qingyu the best opportunity and time. Owl War Star was immediately torn apart. A small 5th-rank clan dares to oppose the entire Xiaolong region. You really don't know what's good for you. Do you think that only 3 peak martial revered realm experts have come this time? 2 terrifying auras suddenly appeared and blocked Gu Qingyu's path. Die! Gu Qingyu turned into a sword and directly swept forward. Unfortunately, with 5 martial revered experts joining hands, no matter how monstrous he would still die. The sword chi pierced through the shackles and shot into the blue dome of heaven. In the blink of an eye, the 2 experts were cut in half. The terrifying sword chi wreaked havoc and destroyed the life of the peak martial revered experts. Unfortunately, the 3 martial revered experts behind him pierced through his body and nailed him to the top of the mountain. Yi Qinghan, if you dare to move again, I will destroy your brother's soul. The divine weapons in the hands of the 3 martial revered experts pierced through Gu Qingyu's body. One of them pressed his hand on Gu Qingyu's head. True energy shot out in all directions. It was obvious that if he moved, Gu Qingyu's soul and spirit would dissipate. Yi Qinghan's aura rose to the peak. His eyes were filled with anger. The berserker saber in his hand fell down and pierced into the ground. Emperor Xinyi saw that Yi Qinghan was distracted. He immediately sneered and launched a sneak attack from the side. His sword pierced through Yi Qinghan's arm. Kong, attacks came from all directions and submerged him in an instant. The attacks of the martial revered experts caused the stars to explode. Even with the intertwining of the wish force and the array left behind by the half-step great emperor, Xiao Zhanqing was unable to protect him. The tyrannical blood vessels and vigorous blood essence collided and ignited a monstrous fire. Xiao Zhanqing was annihilated in an instant. Yi Qinghan's body was pierced through by 5,000-meter-long divine chains. More than 10 peak martial revered experts firmly held onto the chains and fixed him in the void. The chains emitted a rich power of laws and golden light. Unless a martial emperor appeared, these chains would not break. Everything was settled. A total of 8 peak martial revered experts and dozens of peak martial revered experts gathered and completely imprisoned Yi Qinghan's freedom. Qingyu. I've implicated you. Yi Qinghan coughed up blood. His bones were pierced through by the chains and divine blood spilled into the sky. On top of the mountain, Gu Qingyu's black hair danced in the wind. His eyes were ferocious. He smiled mournfully and said in a low voice, Yi Qinghan, you and I have yet to fight, but you've already died at the hands of these despicable people. I can't accept this. Ha ha ha. I've worked so hard for thousands of years and I've actually received such a reward. How sad. Since you want the Divine Martial Imperial Codex, I'll grant you your wish. If there's an afterlife, why don't I kill all of you? Yi Qinghan was unwilling. His eyes emitted a divine light of hatred. He mobilized the true origin around his body and roared out. His powerful body was instantly destroyed. Not good. He's chosen to self-destruct. Emperor Xinyi and the others were shocked. Their figures flashed and rushed towards the end of the void. I'd rather be smashed than die at the hands of despicable people like you. Yi Qinghan roared and his body exploded. Everything within 100 li turned into fine powder. The heaven and earth prison was also torn apart. A huge black hole appeared in the void. A golden light blinked and drowned in the crack. The void was torn apart. An undying will was sucked into the black hole with overflowing resentment. It disappeared without a trace along with the golden light. Chapter 2. Owl falling star, Haiyang country, Jiangning county, winter. Cold rain pitter-pattered, mixed with light snow. In the 100,000 mountains, the night was as dark as ink, without a trace of light. At the foot of the mountain, a youth was lying flat on the ground. His clothes were tattered, and the blood from his wounds had been washed away. The cold rain patted his face, but he still did not wake up, as if he was no longer breathing. A tyrannical cry resounded through the valley, breaking the silence of the 100,000 mountains. It also woke the youth up. As if he was a corpse, his eyes opened and a cold light shot out, turning into a bolt of lightning that rushed towards the ancient times. Hua hua, the lightning struck down and smashed into the 100,000 mountains. The mountain peak was flattened, and rocks flew everywhere. Countless startled birds spread their wings and rushed into the sky, covering the sky. The lightning illuminated the earth and the youth. His eyebrows were like swords, and he was very handsome. He looked to be at most 15 or 16 years old, and was very young. He was about 1.75 meters tall, but he floated on his heels, not like a cultivator. I'm not dead. I, Yi Qinghan, am still alive. The hoarse voice seemed to come from hell, filled with the vicissitudes of life and the tempering of time, as if he had lived for thousands of years and experienced the ancient times. That's right, he was Yi Qinghan, the peerless revered martial artist of Owl War Planet. Yi Qinghan, who had single-handedly established a 5th-grade clan. Yi Qinghan, who had fought against 100 revered martial artists. This is not my body. Yi Qinghan frowned and clenched his fists. His entire body was sore and powerless. Not to mention breaking a star with a single punch, he might not even be able to kill a mouse. A large amount of memories that did not belong to him poured out, causing a black line to appear between Yi Qinghan's eyebrows. He is actually also called Yi Qinghan, only 16 years old, a trash who cannot open his qi. Yi Qinghan's expression became more and more gloomy. It turned out that the body he possessed was also called Yi Qinghan. At a young age, he only had his mother, Madame Wang, and his sister, Yi Mengxi, who was only 5 years old. Because there was no labor at home, he had always lived at the bottom of the Yi family. He was bullied and humiliated by others. His mother was powerless to resist, so she could only endure and seek a place to settle down. This young man could not cultivate, so he became the target of many children's humiliation. Regardless of whether they were from the Yi clan or the youths from other clans, whenever they saw Yi Qinghan, they would humiliate him to show off their strength. Recalling this memory, Yi Qinghan's lips curled up slightly. A self-mocking sneer and a murderous aura surged from his body as he muttered, "Looks like you're not only a piece of trash, but also a pitiful worm." This afternoon, the Yi clan's Yi Qingfeng, Yi Xiaomeng, and a few others joined forces with the Wang clan's young masters and ladies to kidnap Yi Qinghan outside the town. They beat him up violently, but they did not expect that he would be beaten to death. They were afraid of taking responsibility, so they simply threw him at the foot of the 100,000 mountains. However, they did not expect that his body would be possessed by a peerless marshal revered from Owl War Planet. Tsk tisk. Yi Qinghan laughed at himself. Since when was it the turn of these little fellows to humiliate him like this? His weak body caused him to feel pain. Looking up at the terrible weather, he could not help but tremble. His hair stood on end, and goosebumps appeared all over his body. Since I've taken over your body, I will help you take care of your mother and sister. Of course, I will also take care of your hatred. Rest assured and go. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly as he resolutely stepped towards Wanshan town. Qinghan, where are you? Brother, two shouts swayed in the cold wind, and the voices became weaker and weaker. One was young, and the other was old. They touched Yi Qinghan's heart that was as cold as iron. I'm very lucky. At least I have a mother who loves me and a lovely sister. This can be considered a place that warms my heart in this terrible fate. Yi Qinghan quickened his pace and ran towards a dim light. In the distance, an old woman supported a little girl of about 5 or 6 years old. Under the light of the lanterns, the little girl looked like a porcelain doll. Her delicate white face made people want to cherish her. The old woman's face was full of wrinkles, like withered tree bark. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like torches. Even through the ink-black night, he could see the two people in front of him. He could not help but feel his heart ache. Anger and pity surged from the bottom of his heart. "Mother, Mengshi, I'm here." Yi Qinghan rushed forward and came to the side of Wang Shi and Yi Mengshi. Looking at Yi Mengshi, who was shivering in the cold wind, his eyes reddened. He directly took her into his arms, wanting to give the last bit of warmth to this child. Wang Shi looked at the miserable Yi Qinghan and knew that he was beaten again. Trembling slightly, she raised the tattered oil paper umbrella in her hand to his head and cried bitterly. "Child, I'm sorry. I don't have the ability to protect you." Wang Shi was in despair. In this era where the earth devoured blood and bones, without strength, one could only be bullied without any room for resistance. She did not know how long this kind of life would continue. If it were not for the fact that she still had the young Yi Mengshi and Yi Qinghan, she would have committed suicide immediately to end this sad life. Yi Qinghan's nose turned sour. This was something that a man should do, but a mother's love was boundless. It made people speechless. "Mother, I found a way to open up the Sea of Qi. Our lives are going to change. No one will bully us anymore." Yi Qinghan held the oil paper umbrella and raised it above Wang Shi's head. He carried Yi Mengshi and walked step by step towards Wanshan town. Wang Shi looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise. She could not help but smile bitterly. She felt that her son did not want her to be sad and was deliberately comforting her. Yi Mengshi also widened her eyes. Her pure eyes were filled with doubt. Yi Qinghan could not help but smile bitterly. He did not explain anything. In Wanshan town, the three great families gathered. They had the intention to dominate. The Wang family, Yi family, and Su family had joined forces and suppressed each other in order to become the #1 family in Wanshan town. The first step for cultivators was to cultivate their physical body. It was called the body refinement realm. There were 9 stages in the body refinement realm. At the first stage, one's physical body could reach 100 jin. At the second stage, a punch could reach 200 jin of strength. At the third stage, 400 jin of strength. At the fourth stage, 800 jin of strength. At the fifth stage, 1,600 jin of strength was enough to break rocks and shatter ordinary iron. At the sixth stage, one's physical body could not be damaged by ordinary iron and could reach a strength of 3,200 jin. At the seventh stage, there was a threshold. One could burn one's blood and qi. With the help of blood and qi, one could reach 10,000 jin of strength. At the eighth stage of the body refinement realm, one could reach 20,000 jin of strength. A punch could shatter mountains and the ground, and a kick could shatter steel. Wherever one went, no one would dare to disobey them. Thus, they were called the middle stage of the martial artist realm. As for the 9th stage of the body refinement realm, one's strength was so exaggerated that it was indescribable. One's strength could be used to pick up a mountain. With a strength of 40,000 jin, one could kill a ferocious tiger or beast with a single punch. The strongest people in Wanshan town were the patriarchs of the 3 families. They were all at the middle stage of the martial artist realm. However, at that level, no one was willing to kill. As long as they did not die, their families would be able to stand tall in Wanshan town. Martial artist? Yi Qinghan curled his lips. A wave of anger surged in his heart. A martial artist who did not even want to protect his own family was just a piece of trash. Were martial artists very strong? Was 20,000 jin of strength very strong? Kakik, Yi Qinghan could feel Yi Mengshi trembling in his arms. He was even angrier. His iron fist almost crushed the oil paper umbrella. Returning to the Yi family, Wang Shi tiptoed, afraid that she would alarm others and be humiliated. Looking at Wang Shi's pitiful appearance, Yi Qinghan shook his head. Yi Qinghan looked at the house in front of him. It was so short that he had to bend over to enter. It was clearly a straw hut made of mud and withered trees at the corner of the Yi family. He had no sense of belonging to the Yi family. I want you to live in the palace. Very soon. Yi Qinghan had a thought in his heart. He wanted this mother and daughter to live in the happiest palace. No one could bully them. They were his reverse scale. Mother, give Mengxi a hot bath first. Don't let her catch a cold. Yi Qinghan handed Yi Mengxi over to Wang Shi and stood alone outside the door. He ignored Xiao Yu and closed his eyes to feel why this body could not open up the sea of qi. If one could not open up the sea of qi, it meant that one could not produce true qi. Refining one's body would also not produce power. Without power, how could one be considered a cultivator? Soon, Yi Qinghan found the reason. It turned out that this body had accumulated impurities and blocked the veins. It was a miracle that this body could live to this age, let alone open up the sea of qi. This was not a big problem. For the great martial honor Yi Qinghan, there were 10,000 ways to solve it. Yi Qinghan gently shook his body. His body gradually warmed up and he started practicing the Yi family's fundamental fist technique. This was not the Yi family fist technique of Wanshan Town, but the fundamental fist technique of the rank 5 Yi family. It was a rank 2 martial technique. There was no other rank 2 martial technique in the entire Wanshan Town. Yi Qinghan had practiced this set of fist technique countless times. He could even perform it in reverse. His speed became faster and faster. He danced in the wind and cold rain, full of vigor. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, the cold rain shot out and the rain became heavier. Yi Qinghan's speed became faster and faster. Some black impurities gradually appeared on the surface of his body, but they were quickly washed away by the rain. His body emitted a white mist that was steaming hot, helping him resist the cold. The fundamental fist technique had a total of 12 forms. Yi Qinghan practiced it over and over again. The impurities on the surface of his body increased and he emitted a foul smell. If not for the cold wind blowing away the foul smell, it would have alerted Wang Shi and Yi Mengxi who were in the room. After an hour, Yi Qinghan suddenly felt a warmth in his dantian. A wave of true qi flowed through his limbs and bones. Even though it was only a trace, it made him grin. It did not seem difficult. Since when would a great martial honor be so happy because of a trace of true qi? The sea can accommodate hundreds of rivers. It is great to be tolerant. This trace of true qi was controlled by Yi Qinghan. Chapter 3. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on a stone slab by the door. His body was like a radiator, causing the surrounding temperature to rise continuously. More and more true energy was being produced, tearing at his energy reserve. 10 meters, 100 meters, 10 li, 100 li, his energy reserve was like an ocean, surging violently, wave after wave. Yi Qinghan's energy reserve turned into a starry sky, embellished with specks of starlight, illuminating 100 li. A portion of true energy flowed through his limbs and bones, expelling the impurities. Yi Qinghan had turned into a black man. Even his face had a layer of impurities, washed away by the cold rain. His face had become so handsome that it could be broken with a flick of a finger. 500 li, 600 li, the speed at which he opened his energy reserve was simply appalling. The path of his true energy was extremely strange. If anyone were to see this, they would definitely be scared to death. This method of opening his energy reserve was not something that anyone could do. This was because this was the Divine Martial Qi training style, a technique from the Divine Martial Imperial Code. 800 li, 850 li, 900 li, his energy reserve had turned into a boundless ocean. Yi Qinghan's black hair was torn by the cold wind, his blood was roaring, and his energy reserve had reached perfection. The sky rumbled with thunder and lightning, as if it wanted to destroy the world. Endless true energy meant that Yi Qinghan could use it to attack endlessly, as long as his body could withstand it. Yi Qinghan slowly stood up. He was not in a hurry to cultivate his body. He wanted to rest for the night, otherwise his body would not be able to take it. He lifted the wooden bucket under the eaves and poured the water over his head, removing all the impurities in his body. He took some clean water to clean himself again, then bent over and walked into the room. The room was as clean as a board, without even a decent piece of furniture. 2 simple wooden planks were put together, which could be considered 2 beds. The damp and cold blankets could not keep out the cold. Wang Shi hugged Yi Qinghan and kept rocking her, hoping to coax her to sleep. Seeing Yi Qinghan enter the room, she whispered, "Qinghan, quickly sleep. Meng Shi seems to be sick. Tomorrow, go into the mountains and see if you can find some herbs." Yi Qinghan took the unconscious Yi Mengshi and pressed her head with his big hand. He frowned and found that her fever was extremely high. "It's okay, mother. You can sleep peacefully. I'll take her to sleep." Yi Qinghan blew out the candle without any hesitation. He held little Meng Shi in his arms and pressed his hand on her back. The true qi in his body poured into her body. Not only did it help her expel the cold qi in her body, it also helped her change her physique. Little Meng Shi felt very comfortable. She subconsciously squeezed into Yi Qinghan's arms and fell asleep with a pout. The next day, little Meng Shi pinched Yi Qinghan's nose and grinned, which surprised Wang Shi. "She had a high fever yesterday. How did she recover after sleeping?" Furthermore, his energy was much better than before. Could it be that Yi Qinghan was a 1,000-year-old radix isatitus that grew in the forest? Cure all diseases. Yi Qinghan opened his big eyes and looked at the mischievous little Meng Shi. He smiled gently, which made people feel like they were bathed in the spring breeze. "Brother has become so handsome," Yi Mengshi said seriously. "Sister has become prettier. Get up. Brother will teach you how to fight." Yi Qinghan teased. "Let's eat first. We'll talk after eating," Wang Shi said dotingly. Yi Qinghan looked at the bowl of unknown wild vegetables and steamed buns on the table and frowned. However, he did not dislike them. He thought to himself, no wonder her physique is so weak. It would be strange if she could cultivate after eating such food. "I'll go into the mountains to hunt some wild animals and add them to my mother and sister's meal." He ate some and went to the door to practice the Yi family's basic fist technique. He practiced the Yi family's 12 fist techniques 3 times. Yi Mengshi stuck her head out and watched him practice. She could not help but learn from him out of curiosity. You have to be steady when you punch. Your lower body must be heavy. Exert force from your waist and your qi will sink into your dantian. Collapse into your fist and release it into your fist. Feel your qi see. Let your qi flow through your entire body, kick. Yi Qinghan taught her patiently. He hoped that little Mengshi would have the ability to protect herself. However, it seemed that Yi Mengshi had a talent for martial arts. Every move she learned looked good. There seemed to be a trace of true qi attached to her fist. The first move, tiger leaves the cage. The second move, ancient tree roots. The third move, dragon fights in the wild. The fourth move, heaven and earth shattering. The moves are in your heart. There are thousands of changes. Don't stick to the routine. You have to see how the opponent punches. Understand? Understood. Brother, there seems to be a little bug biting my dantian. Little Mengshi raised her head and said seriously. That's true qi. It's helping you open up your sea of qi. For now, you can practice martial arts in peace at the door. Don't run around. Big brother is going out for a while. If I don't see you when I come back, I won't teach you martial arts anymore. Yi Qinghan deliberately threatened. Understood. Brother, be careful. Yi Mengshi nodded seriously and began to practice the 12 punches of Yi. Yi Qinghan turned and left the house. His aura suddenly changed. His whole body was emitting cold air. His temperament was so cold that it was hard for people to get close to him. Early in the morning, there was no one on the main road. Yi Qinghan walked out of the Yi house alone. The guards didn't even have the interest to look at him. Yi Qinghan walked out of the Yi house. He walked as if he was flying. The true qi in his body flowed continuously to defend against the cold. Although he was wearing thin clothes, he didn't feel cold at all. Sha sha sha, stepping on the icy road, Yi Qinghan made a rustling sound. He flipped in the air and kicked sideways on the deserted path. He didn't let go of any time to practice. The 10,000 mountains stretched for thousands of miles. There was no end in sight. Transparent icicles hung on the ancient trees. It was like a silver world. Yi Qinghan sneaked into the depths of the mountains with a stone in his hand. It could be considered a defensive weapon. He had no other choice. His family was as poor as a church mouse. Not to mention ironware, even the spatula he used to cook was made of wood. In the cold winter, even birds were unwilling to come out of the mountains. It was so quiet that it made people feel cold. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like torches as he scanned the ground. Wild rabbits were everywhere during this season. If he caught a few back, it would be enough for his family of 3 to eat for 2 days. However, the weather wasn't on his side. He didn't find a single wild rabbit even after a few miles. If he went deeper, he might encounter a strong wild beast. With Yi Qinghan's current physical fitness, he was no match for it. Yi Qinghan frowned. He carefully stuck to the trees. He didn't dare to take any risks. Deep in a ruthless family like the Yi house, it would be dangerous even if he wasn't injured. Once he was injured, he would implicate Wang Shi and little Meng Shi. Sha sha sha, the crisp sound alarmed Yi Qinghan. 30 meters ahead to his left, there was a fat wild rabbit chewing on withered grass. It didn't seem to notice that there was a person standing in the distance. A distance of 30 meters wasn't considered close. Yi Qinghan held the small stone tightly and walked along the ancient tree. When he was about 10 meters away, the wild rabbit seemed to have sensed danger. It raised its head and saw Yi Qinghan. Just as it was about to escape, it saw Yi Qinghan throw the stone and hit it in the head. The wild rabbit fell to the ground. It didn't even have time to cry out. Hee hee. Yi Qinghan laughed foolishly. He didn't have the cold aura of a great revered martial artist. Like a clown, he jogged over and picked up the wild rabbit. He weighed it. It was at least 10 pounds. He whispered, "This is obviously not enough. With my appetite, this is only enough for me alone." He lowered his head and continued forward. He lay down beside a big tree and waited. Soon, another pair of gray wild rabbits appeared and walked together. However, Yi Qinghan didn't pity them. Nothing was more important than filling the stomachs of his mother and sister. He threw out 2 taels of silver and 10 taels of broken silver. The Spirit Treasures shop was a big power. It was the #1 sect in Jiangning County. This was only a branch store. They definitely wouldn't break the rules for a few taels of silver. After receiving the silver, Yi Qinghan couldn't help but let out a breath of turbid air. He felt that doing business with this old man was very straightforward. He then began to promote his wild rabbits. "Old mister, it's winter. Do you want to buy a few wild rabbits that you just caught to make a dish to go with wine?" Yi Qinghan asked when he mentioned the wild rabbits. When he heard that it was a dish to go with wine, the old man swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He looked at the fat and strong wild rabbits. He was even more excited than when he saw the moon soul herb. Chapter 4. The old man swallowed his saliva when he heard that it was a dish that went well with wine. He was even more excited when he saw the plump wild rabbits than when he saw the moon soul grass. Damn, what a plump wild rabbit. Where did you get so many wild rabbits? I'll buy them all. How much is it? The old man hurriedly asked. I'm only selling 10. I'll use the rest myself. 1 wild rabbit is 20 copper coins. 10 wild rabbits are 2 taels of silver. Yi Ching Han was straightforward. This price was very close to the market price. It was even lower because no one was willing to go hunting in the middle of winter. I'll give you 3 taels of silver. Get me 10 more tomorrow. It's still the same price. The old man was even more straightforward. He generously threw out 3 taels of silver and reached out to grab the wild rabbits. It was as if he was afraid that Yi Ching Han would not pay. Yi Ching Han smiled. This old man was not bad. He did not dislike him. She left 10 wild hares behind and hid the silver. Then, she carried the remaining 6 wild hares to the town center. She bought 2 sets of warm clothes for Meng Shi and 2 sets of warm clothes for Wang Shi. She spent a total of 2 taels of silver. If Wang Shi knew about this, she would be heartbroken. I still have 31 taels of silver left. Let's see if I can rent a house. Yi Ching Han whispered. He was really unwilling to let Wang Shi and little Meng Shi live in such an environment. However, there were not many people on the street. He did not know many people in Wanshan town. He suddenly thought of the old man in Lingbao Hall. He turned and ran to Lingbao Hall. When he ran to Lingbao Hall, a burst of fragrance assailed his nostrils. Yi Ching Han looked inside and could not help but be speechless. This old man was too greedy. He had just gotten the wild rabbits and they were already roasted. And they were roasted in the hall of Lingbao Hall. Grumble, his stomach growled. He swallowed his saliva and suppressed his hunger. Yi Ching Han looked at the door. The old man impatiently shouted, "Can't you see that I'm busy? I'm not doing business today. It's me. Sir." Yi Ching Han saw the old man take out the wine pot without even looking up. He could not help but be speechless. With such a gatekeeper, it was strange that Lingbao Hall did not close down. It's you, what's the matter? You want to sell those 6 hares to me? I'll double the price. The old man looked enviously at the wild rabbit in Yi Ching Han's hands and hurriedly said. Not for sale. Yi Ching Han rejected decisively. Then why did you come back? The old man asked impatiently. I'd like to ask, do you know where there are houses for sale or rental around here? If you tell me, I'll get you 10 of these rabbits every day. Yi Ching Han tempted. Are you sure? The old man asked in surprise. Of course, I'm 100% sure. But I still want the money. Yi Ching Han curled his lips. I'm the only one living in this big Lingbao Hall. There's an empty courtyard in the back. I'll rent it to you. The monthly rent is 10 taels of silver. If you want to buy it, I'm afraid it'll cost you at least 500 taels. Looking at your tattered clothes, you can't afford it, right? The old man mocked. I can't afford it at the moment. I'll rent it first. I'll leave these 6 hares with you for now. You write a rental certificate and I'll pay the money. Yi Ching Han bitterly smiled. Write a damn rental certificate. Do you think this old man will be greedy for your 10 taels of silver? I'll pay at the end of the month and move in at any time. The furniture will be complete. If there's any damage, you'll have to pay the price. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Go and move. Don't disturb me from drinking. The old man disdained. 10 taels of silver. He had more than that in his pockets. If it weren't for the 10 hares a day, he would not let anyone disturb his quiet cultivation. Thank you, old man. I'll leave these hares with you for now. I'll go pick up my mother and sister. Yi Qinghan did not care whether the old man agreed or not. He left the hares and ran back home. In the Yi family, a group of 15 to 16 years old boys and girls surrounded a small shabby house at the corner. They pointed and laughed from time to time. In the middle of the crowd, little Meng Shi sat on the ground and looked at everyone angrily. Her starry eyes were filled with anger. Her clothes were soaked and her hair was still dripping with water. It was obvious that she was splashed with water. Wang Shi hugged little Meng Shi and looked at the young boys and girls helplessly. She kept begging for mercy. I beg you. Let us go. Meng Shi is still young. How can you bully her like this? Wang Shi begged. Ha ha ha. Is she young? She just said she wanted to hit me. I'm so scared. Yi Meng Shi, you and your brother are both trash. You still want to practice martial arts? The young generation of the Yi family relied on their parents to bully others. They were led by Yi Qingfeng and Yi Xiaomeng. They were a pair of brother and sister. They did all kinds of evil. They did not cultivate and only bullied Yi Qinghan for fun. They were already 17 years old and were only at the second level of body refinement. They were at the bottom of the Yi family. Of course, they were much stronger than Yi Qinghan. My brother is not trash. Yi Meng Shi roared. She did not have the slightest bit of fear. Her stubborn and angry eyes made people feel sorry for her, but it became the fuse of everyone's ridicule. Ha ha ha. Isn't Yi Qinghan trash? This is the funniest joke I've ever heard. Bullying the young is more fun than bullying Yi Qinghan. Yi Qingfeng laughed wildly. Is that so? A cold and hoarse voice sounded. It made people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. A murderous aura enveloped everyone, making them shiver. Yi Qingfeng's body trembled. It was as if he had been targeted by a poisonous snake. If he dared to move, he would be bitten to death. Yi Xiaomeng and the others were the same. No one dared to move. The voice was too unfamiliar and the murderous aura was too thick. You can bully me. If I can't beat you, that means I am trash. But you bullied the 5-year-old Meng Shi. You are worse than beasts. Who splashed this basin of water? Yi Qinghan walked in front of Yi Meng Shi. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he coldly asked. When everyone saw that it was Yi Qinghan, even though Yi Qinghan's gaze was a bit strange, they were shocked. After all, they knew that Yi Qinghan had been beaten half to death and thrown to the foot of the 10,000 great mountains. They did not think that he would still be alive. The corners of their mouths curled up in ridicule. You bastard, you are still alive. I was the one who splashed the water. What do you think? Yi Xiaomeng asked arrogantly. The 15-year-old Yi Xiaomeng was not considered pretty or delicate. However, she was extremely vicious. She even bullied a 5-year-old child. This completely infuriated Yi Qinghan. This is my first time hitting a woman. You are the first and also the last. The volcano in Yi Qinghan's body erupted. His figure was like a ferocious tiger. He pulled Yi Xiaomeng's hair and fiercely kicked her face. Before anyone could react, he swung his leg back and kicked her in the stomach, sending her flying into the broken house. Ah! Ugh! Yi Xiaomeng screamed and retched. You dare to hit my sister! Yi Qingfeng was like a tiger whose tail had been stepped on. He roared angrily. The few lackeys behind him also surrounded him, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. I also dare to kill you. Once Yi Qinghan's anger erupted, it was uncontrollable. He raised his leg and kicked Yi Qinghan's manhood. These people who only knew how to bully the weak did not have much fighting power and had no actual combat experience. How could they be a match for Yi Qinghan? Yi Qinghan's chaotic punches were like a tiger. Although his strength was not great, each of his punches hit the vital points. It was either the throat, the tip of the nose, or even the manhood. He was incomparably ruthless and merciless. 6 or 7 youths who were about the same age as him but were stronger than him instantly fell to the ground. They were battered and exhausted. Aya, woo-woo. Father. Mother. Quickly come and save me. Io, looking at these good-for-nothings, Yi Qinghan felt disdain. He restrained his killing intent and carried Yimengshi. He said to Wang Shi, Mother, let's go, where are you going? You little bastard, how dare you hurt my son? Kneel down and kowtow 10 times before you leave. A big man ran over from afar. Before he arrived, his voice was heard. Like a shrew, he waved his fist and smashed it towards Yi Qinghan. In fact, his body was tense, like a poisonous snake ready to pounce. It was fine if he did not attack, but if he did, he would kill. Fuck. You dare to trick me in front of everyone, I'll send you to meet your father. Yi Qinghan was furious. He clenched his fist and took the opportunity to kill Yi Qinghan. Chapter 5. Fuck. How dare you trick me in front of everyone? I'll send you to meet your father. Yi Qinghan was furious. He clenched his fist and took the opportunity to kill Yi Qinghan. Enough. Isn't it embarrassing enough? Do you want to tell the whole town about this? Yi Qinghan scolded. The Yi family members couldn't help but shudder and shut their mouths. Yi Qinghan also silently took a step back, putting some distance between himself and Yi Zhong. Although he had the soul of a great martial honor, his physical body was extremely weak. Even if he had heaven-defying techniques, it would be very difficult for him to kill Yi Zhong. Uncle, you have to help me. This bastard sneaked up on me. Look at how I was beaten. Woo-woo. Yi Xiaomeng cried like a little girl who had been wronged. Yi Qinghan looked at the newcomer. It was a middle-aged man with an incomparably dignified aura, as if he were the head of a family. His vigorous body exuded an indescribable power, as if he was a volcano that was about to erupt. Yes, he was the head of the Yi family, Yi Kuang. He had reached the 8th level of the body refining stage. He was in the middle of the warrior stage and was one of the top 3 experts in Wanshan town. Yi Kuang swept his gaze over the crowd. When he saw the trash of the Yi clan lying on the ground, a disdainful sneer appeared on his face. He then looked at Yi Qinghan with a trace of surprise in his eyes. He thought to himself, isn't he unable to cultivate? Why is there a chi wave? Did you hit him? Yi Kuang raised his eyebrows and asked. Yes. Yi Qinghan held his short sword tightly. In this family, he only believed in strength and the sword in his hand. Why did you beat up your own family? Don't you know this is against the family rules? Yi Kuang asked coldly. Is beating up your own family against the family rules? Then why didn't anyone come out to fart after I was beaten up for more than 10 years? Yi Qinghan mocked with disdain and used an even colder tone to ask back. Yi Kuang's face was livid. He was speechless. It wasn't that he didn't know about Yi Qinghan's family being bullied. He just didn't want to talk about it. He didn't expect that today it would be the sharpest rebuttal. Impudent. You bastard, you have no manners. How dare you talk back to the tribe leader like this? I'll kill you today. Yi Chong was enraged and was about to strike again. Shut up, you bastard. When I was your age, I could have squashed you to death with my little finger. Yi Qinghan interrupted Yi Chong coldly, not giving him any face. Yi Qinghan, how dare you insult your elders like this? You're really pissing me off. Yi Qinghan was fuming. He wanted to punch Yi Qinghan to death. I will only treat you as an elder if you treat yourself as one. If you don't treat yourself as a person, then you are nothing in my eyes. Yi Qinghan said proudly. All right. It was neither too much nor too little. What kind of scandal was this? All of you, shut up. Yi Kuang glared at Yi Chong with dissatisfaction. He then looked at Yi Qinghan and asked in a low voice, "I'll ask again, why did you beat up your own family? Leader, let me ask you, if your daughter, Yi Chen, was living in such a dilapidated house on such a cold day and was splashed with cold water from head to toe by these trash, what would you do?" Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Yi Kuang took a deep breath and didn't speak for a long time because he had nothing to say. "Why don't you tell me about the family rules now? Yesterday, I was knocked out by Yi Qingfeng and Yi Xiaomeng with a few outsiders and was thrown to the foot of Emshirwan. Why don't you tell them that the Yi family has rules? My sister was humiliated like this and I acted. Is that a violation of the family rules? Alright, I, Yi Qinghan, am willing to accept the punishment and leave the Yi family from now on. Goodbye." Yi Qinghan carried Yi Mengshi and pulled the stunned Wang Shi towards the door. "Stop." Yi Kuang frowned. If he let Yi Qinghan leave like this, wouldn't the Wang family and Su family laugh at the Yi family for being unfair? "You don't have the final say on the Yi family's rules and punishments. I have the final say." Yi Kuang said coldly, "Where is the law enforcement elder?" "Yi Feng is here." A middle-aged man walked out from the crowd. He looked a bit like Yi Kuang. It was Yi Kuang's third brother, Yi Feng, the law enforcement elder. "Give me the law enforcement whip," Yi Kuang said coldly. Yi Feng handed over the law enforcement whip with both hands. He wanted to beat the clan elder and the servants. Whoever dared to resist would be killed on the spot. "Get down." Yi Kuang looked at Yi Feng coldly and said in a low voice. Yi Feng was stunned. He didn't know what Yi Kuang wanted to do. But the cold flame in Yi Kuang's eyes was getting stronger and stronger. He couldn't help but feel a chill and quickly lay down on the cold ground. As the law enforcement elder, you don't care about the family rules and indulge them. You don't deserve to be a law enforcement elder. From today onwards, you are no longer a law enforcement elder. You will receive 10 lashes as punishment. Pa pa pa. Ah. The whip pierced into the flesh and blood splattered everywhere. The Yi family members couldn't help but gasp. Yi Feng's shrill scream resounded throughout the Yi family. His whole body was twitching, obviously in pain. Yi Chang's face darkened. He didn't understand why Yi Kuang would punish his own brother for a kid. Besides, he was the law enforcement elder of the Yi family. Yi Qinghan's mouth curved slightly. He didn't stop Yi Kuang. He wanted to see what Yi Kuang wanted to do. After 10 lashes, Yi Feng fainted from the pain. It was obvious that Yi Kuang didn't hold back. "Yi Chong. Get down." Yi Kuang looked at Yi Chong coldly and impatiently scolded. "Patriarch, I." Yi Chong trembled. Looking at Yi Feng's miserable state, he knew that if he received 10 lashes, he wouldn't be able to get out of bed for half a month. But looking at Yi Kuang's expression, he knew that if he didn't get down, it would be more than 10 lashes. Yi Chong lay on the ground. His butt trembled, as if the whip was about to hit him. "Yi Chong, as the law enforcement elder of the Yi family, you condone your children's evil deeds, and bully others. You are punished with 20 lashes and half a year's salary." Yi Kuang was tyrannical. He didn't give Yi Chong a chance to refute. He fiercely lashed out with more force than Yi Feng. "Pa pa pa, ah ah ah. Patriarch, I'm wrong. I." Yi Chong screamed. His fingers dug into the hard soil. But soon he couldn't speak. After 10 lashes, he was on the verge of death. Yi Qinghan didn't show the slightest bit of pity, as he grinned. Yi Kuang noticed his expression, and couldn't help but exert more force. Yi Chong fainted, but found that Yi Qinghan was still laughing coldly. Is this really Yi Qinghan? Why do I feel that his smile is so creepy? Yi Kuang took a deep breath. If it was someone else, he would have stopped Yi Chong and done him a favor. Yi Qingfeng, Yi Xiaomeng, Yi Xiaohu, Yi Xiaobao, Yi Dalong. Get down. Ah. Yi Qingfeng and the others fainted when they saw Yi Kuang about to punish them. Pour cold water on them and wake them up. Yi Kuang said coldly. He seemed to be heartless, but he actually wanted to know how heartless Yi Qinghan was. Would he also not stop them? Patriarch. They are still children. Xiaomeng is a girl. You will break them. My husband has already fainted from your beating, please be merciful. Yi Xiaomeng's mother, Mrs. Yu, rushed over and rolled on the ground like a shrew. She didn't look like she was begging for mercy at all. Begging me is better than begging him. They have made mistakes all these years and no one corrected them. That's why they became like this. If all the Yi family disciples are like them in a few years, what future do we have? Yi Kuang shouted angrily. Madame Yu followed Yi Kuang's gaze and looked at Yi Qinghan. Her eyes were filled with resentment, but she quickly hid it and wailed to Yi Qinghan, Qinghan, you've been wronged all these years. We're willing to make it up to you. Please be merciful and ask the patriarch for mercy. Qinghan, let it go. Mrs. Wang did not dare to offend the elders of the family. She quickly begged in a low voice. Let it go. Why should I let it go? I feel that Lord Patriarch's teachings are correct. You should be thanking him, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Not to mention that Yi Kuang was only putting on a show today, even if he really killed a few people, Yi Qinghan wouldn't have the slightest bit of mercy. You bastard. Madame Yu cursed, no longer concealing the hatred in her eyes. Pa! Yi Kuang fiercely whipped Mrs. Yu. Mrs. Yu suddenly cried hysterically. Her body curled up as if she had suffered a great blow. Ouch! Many people saw Mrs. Yu screaming and twitching. They wanted to laugh but did not dare to for fear of being implicated. It is because of a fierce woman like you that my Yi family is declining day by day. Yi Kuang was extremely angry. He wanted to vent his anger and teach his family. He personally brought 2 buckets of cold water and directly poured it on Yi Qingfeng and the others. Yi Qingfeng and the others suddenly woke up and trembled. Looking at Yi Kuang waving the whip, they kicked their legs and screamed like a madman. Pa! 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 Even Yi Xiaomeng couldn't avoid the 3 consecutive lashes and fainted. Everyone in the Yi family was terrified, including Yi Mengxi. She lay in Yi Qinghan's arms, not daring to look. Wang Shi was even more dejected. Today, they had been given an explanation, but what about in the future? What kind of revenge would they receive? They violated the family rules and received such punishment. Are you satisfied? Yi Kuang faintly looked at Yi Qinghan and asked in a low voice. It doesn't matter if I am satisfied or not, as long as you are satisfied. Yi Qinghan did not have a good expression because he did not need to compromise. He did not have this bad habit. As for your punishment, since you were eager to save your sister, I will punish you. Yi Kuang's eyes were filled with dissatisfaction as he said in a low voice. Just punish me to get out of the Yi family. Needless to say, I am willing to accept this punishment. Yi Qinghan carried Yi Mengxi and was about to leave. Why do you insist on leaving? Are you not satisfied with the punishment I gave them? Yi Kuang shouted in dissatisfaction. Because my body is as proud as a 7 feet tall poplar tree. I would rather break than bend. What's more, the family has been destroyed and I have no intention to stay. Yi Qinghan's vigorous body suddenly exploded with an arrogant aura, as if he was an emperor from the 9 heavens. His pair of eyes shot out a supreme will and looked down at the Yi family, suppressing Yi Kuang's aura. Mother, let's go. Yi Qinghan pulled Mrs. Wang and walked towards the Yi family's gate, leaving behind a shabby straw hut and laughing at the Yi family's ruthlessness. Chapter 6. Yi Qinghan left with little Meng Shi and Wang Shi under the resentful gazes of the Yi family. Yi Kuang's face was ashen and there was some doubt in his eyes. He felt that Yi Qinghan had changed a lot, especially his temperament. He did not want to offend him, so he punished the Yi family. "Brother, where are we going?" Little Meng Shi shivered. Her clothes were all wet and her lips were a little purple. "We're going to a place to live. I found a big house. No one will bully you in the future," Yi Qinghan said gently. "Where did you get so much money? Could it be that he did something dirty?" Wang Shi panicked, fearing that Yi Qinghan would do something he shouldn't have done in a moment of confusion. "Mother, I won't. Don't worry. You'll know when we get there." Yi Qinghan quickened his pace and soon arrived at Lingbao Hall. The old man of Lingbao Hall sat in front of the table. There were 5 roasted hares and a jar of wine on the table. There were 5 more on the grill. They were golden and glowing, making people drool. Little Meng Shi swallowed her saliva when she smelled the fragrance. She looked at the roasted meat eagerly but did not say anything. She knew that she could not afford to eat such good food. "Sir, please forgive me if I disturb you in the future." Yi Qinghan walked into Lingbao Hall and said lightly, "Don't disturb me when I'm eating. The back door is not locked. Buy new ones." The old man did not raise his head and began to tear the rabbit leg. The fragrance was overwhelming. Gulp, looking at such fragrant roasted meat, not to mention little Meng Shi, even Yi Qinghan felt that his taste had improved. He reached out and grabbed a roasted rabbit. "What are you doing?" The old man glared and questioned with dissatisfaction. "My little sister is hungry. You can pick the biggest one out of my 6 as compensation." Yi Qinghan took the piping hot barbecued meat and bent down to pick up the newly bought big bag of clothes before walking to the backyard. In the backyard, Yi Qinghan took out new clothes and said to Meng Shi and Wang Shi, "Mother, Meng Shi, go change into new clothes and have a big meal." "Oh!" Yi Meng Shi was incomparably excited. She had never worn a new set of clothes since she was young. She had always picked up tattered clothes that people did not want. Now that she saw the colorful and beautiful new clothes in front of her, she even forgot about the roasted meat. She grabbed the new clothes and rushed into a small room. Wang Shi murmured. She wanted to ask something, but she didn't say anything. Knowing that her son had changed, she had the courage to live on. She took the clothes and went into the room. Yi Qinghan cleaned up the living room and placed the barbecued meat on a plate. He then went to the kitchen to boil a large pot of water and placed it in Wang Shi's room. "Mother, you and Meng Shi should take a hot bath. Don't let Meng Shi freeze." Yi Qinghan quickly got busy and boiled a large pot of hot water. He slaughtered the wild rabbit, removed its fur, blanched it, removed its innards, and divided it into 2 portions. One portion was to be roasted whole, while the other portion was to be stir-fried. Cooking. Yi Qinghan thought about it. It seemed that he had not cooked for hundreds of years. He was actually a little rusty. However, he used to be a poor person and often went out to gain experience. The standard of his barbecued meat might be much better than the old men outside. Setting up the grill, Yi Qinghan put all the ingredients, salt, and herbs into the rabbits' stomachs. He then used his jinqi to wrap the 2 rabbits. He lit a match and continued to roll the grill. The old man at the front was eating barbecued meat and drinking wine. He suddenly sniffed and frowned. He then sniffed his own barbecued meat and murmured, "That's not right. It's not the smell of my barbecued meat. What a fragrant barbecued meat smell. It doesn't have the slightest trace of impurities." The old man raised his white eyebrows and walked towards the backyard. In the kitchen, Yi Qinghan used his jinqi to wrap the barbecued meat and prevent the oil and fumes from entering the meat. The process of roasting meat was different from others. He put in sesame oil, dissolved salt, and permeated the entire rabbit meat. Not a trace of wastage was wasted. Gulp. The old man looked as if he had not eaten. He looked at the rabbit in Yi Qinghan's hand and rubbed his stomach. He said eagerly, "Little guy, you just took one of my rabbits. Now compensate me with one. Any one of the rabbits in your hand will do. I didn't touch your barbecued meat. It's in the main hall. You can take it back. Yi Qinghan curled his lips and smiled faintly. The old man rolled his eyes and said unceremoniously, I don't want it that was touched by your hands. You must compensate me with a new one. My hands have touched these two as well. Yi Qinghan was speechless. This was the first time he had barbecued meat in his life. It must have been for Meng Shi and his mother. How could he give it to him? I don't care. The old man had nothing to lose. He was drooling over the barbecued meat in Yi Qinghan's hands. Yi Qinghan, not long after, a clear voice spread through the backyard. Brother! Am I beautiful? Little Meng Shi ran to the kitchen door and twirled around. She wanted to show her beautiful clothes to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan laughed involuntarily. It had been a long time since he felt the warmth of a family. In the past, he had been cultivating and neglected the feelings of his family. He only regretted it when he lost it. Very beautiful. Sister is the most beautiful angel. Yi Qinghan reached out and pulled Yi Mengshi over. He placed the golden roasted rabbit meat on the table that had been wiped clean and said softly, Here, be careful. It's hot. Is this done too? The old man was drooling. He looked at the other barbecued meat on the rack and wanted to snatch it away immediately. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. He reached out and tore off a piece of rabbit leg. He began to chew on it. The old man was furious. He was not afraid of the heat. He even took the barbecued meat away. The barbecued meat melted in his mouth. It flowed through his limbs and bones. The rich fire element roasted his body, making him feel warm. Wang Shi looked at Yi Mengshi happily eating the barbecued meat and finally smiled. Mother, come and eat the barbecued meat. You and Mengshi can share this one. Yi Qinghan quickly got up and helped Wang Shi sit down. I'll eat the one in the hall. You and Mengshi can have this one. Wang Shi knew that the one in the hall was not as good as this one, so she got up to get it. Mother, sit down. I'll eat that one. Yi Qinghan pressed on Wang Shi's shoulder. His voice was accompanied by a low will, so Wang Shi could not refuse. Yi Qinghan casually ate some barbecued meat. After filling his stomach, he began to think about how to cultivate. I can't use the Yi family's fist techniques. I can't use the secret techniques that I was good at either. Otherwise, I will not be able to move an inch if I alarm those people. Yi Qinghan lowered his head and pondered. There were at least 8,000 secret techniques in his mind. However, there were only a few that were suitable for him. It's a high-level body refinement technique used in the endless universe. It's a grade 2 martial technique. It can be cultivated to the blood ignition realm. It's a good choice. However, Mengshi can't cultivate her body. I'll let her cultivate her qi. The qi refinement extreme Tianyuan technique should be enough to protect her life. Cultivators cultivated in the body refinement realm. The body refinement realm was divided into 6 levels of the body refinement realm and the martial artist realm. Then, there was the blood ignition realm, bitter sea realm, grotto heaven realm, fate palace realm, Tao sovereign realm, immortal gate realm, God martial realm, and the great emperor realm. Back then, Yi Qinghan had reached the Tao sovereign realm and entered the Tao through martial arts. He was also known as the Great Martial Supremacy. Just as he was about to enter the Celestial Gate, comprehend the 6 Tao, cultivate the laws, and create supernatural powers, he was killed by a group of people. His family was destroyed. I don't know if Brother Qingyu survived. Will Sikong Qingjun be implicated? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. It was impossible for the Yi family to survive. Even Xiao Zhanqing was destroyed. Now, he was only worried about the 2 of them. Azura Qianyi, Emperor Shenyi, and those 100 Tao sovereign bastards. What you gave me, I'll pay you back 100 times. Yi Qinghan walked towards the courtyard and twisted his body. All the bones in his body creaked. His body was as soft as water. His exaggerated movements were terrifying. He twisted like a snake. With every movement, the blood in his body flowed more smoothly. True qi flowed through his body. His blood felt like it was burning. His body became hotter and hotter. Yi Qinghan started to practice his fist techniques. It was a very ordinary Yi family fist. His punches were firm and powerful. The sea of qi in his body formed a whirlpool. It was as vast as the universe. The Milky Way surged and countless stars decorated it. True qi turned into energy and filled his body. True qi flowed through his body 36 times. With a hung sound, he broke through to the first layer of the body refinement realm. With 100 gene of strength, combined with martial skills, killing a second layer body refinement cultivator was no problem. If he took the risk, even a third layer body refinement cultivator would not be his match. He was no longer the Yi Qinghan that could be bullied. However, Yi Qinghan was not happy. This kind of thing was nothing. Thinking back to when he was a Dao sovereign, if he met a strong cultivator, they could pinch him to death with a finger. Yi Qinghan changed into a warrior's robe and walked towards the front yard. The old man was still drinking wine and eating barbecued meat. He was very uncomfortable. It was snowing outside. People were walking on the road, but no one came in to do business. Old man, how much is the body refinement pill? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. 10 taels of silver for 1 pill. It's a top-quality body refinement pill, personally made by this old man. With your current cultivation, 10 body refinement pills can guarantee that you will enter the second layer body refinement realm. Are you interested? The old man's eyes flashed as he joked. Give me 3 pills. Yi Qinghan said without hesitation. Nowadays, money was not that important. With strength, he could enter the 10,000 mountains and there were spirit herbs everywhere. It was enough to pay for a family's expenses. What can 3 pills do? Not enough money. You can buy it on credit as long as you provide 30 gene of wild game every day and personally roast it for this old man. The old man suggested with interest. Yi Qinghan could not help but sneer. He had no interest in wasting so much time roasting meat for an old man. He flatly refused. Not interested. 3 pills are enough. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. The old man curled his lips. He was very dissatisfied. Other people did not even have the chance to ask for credit, but he wanted to give it to him and he did not want it. Mud can't support a wall. You don't even want to give me a little motivation. The old man threw out 3 golden body refinement pills. Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed them. He threw the 30 taels of silver to the old man and returned to the backyard. Yi Qinghan swallowed a body refinement pill and began to practice the body refinement technique. The power in his body surged. Every meridian was refined and his strength became stronger. The effects of the body refinement pill were fully displayed. Yi Qinghan felt that his strength exceeded 200 gene, but he did not advance to the second layer body refinement realm. He continued to take the second body refinement pill and began to mobilize his strength to break through to the second layer body refinement realm. Once he entered the second layer body refinement realm, his strength would definitely surpass that of the second layer body refinement realm. Chapter 7. Yi Qinghan slowly stood up and began to strike the wooden stake. His flesh was torn and blood splattered everywhere. His true energy flowed through his body and healed his wounds. Every time it healed, his body became tougher. After taking the third body refining pill, a majestic force rushed out from his dantian and broke through the bottleneck. He officially stepped into the second level of body refining. His fist was as fast as lightning, directly breaking the wooden stake. 400 pounds of strength rushed out from his body. After entering the second level of body refining, one would have enough strength to use martial arts. A body refining realm cultivator with martial arts could definitely fight those of a higher level. With my martial arts skills, I can survive against a 4th level body refining realm cultivator. Against a 5th level body refining realm cultivator, the most I can do is escape. The most important thing now is to earn some money to forge the 7-foot violent blade. As for using the extreme dragon god steps, I'm afraid it's impossible without a martial artist's realm. The extreme dragon god steps was Yi Qinghan's most proficient speed secret technique. When practiced to the peak, one could cross the stars and move the stars. Meng Shi, you stay at home and practice your martial arts. I'm going out for a bit. If I don't come back tonight, close the door and take care of mother. Do you understand? Yi Qinghan looked at Yi Meng Shi's bulging belly and couldn't help but dote on her. Okay. Brother, be careful. I understand. Yi Meng Shi nodded seriously. Her tender voice sounded like she was singing. Yi Qinghan scanned the entire yard. He didn't use any weapons. This time, he had to go a few dozen miles into the mountains. Without a weapon, it was impossible. Arriving at the front yard, the old man seemed to be an alcoholic. He had been drinking for so long and was still drinking. The snow outside was getting heavier and heavier. Old mister, do you have a knife here? Or a bow or something like that? I don't hunt. Isn't there a blacksmith shop next door? Let's go there and take a look. The old man burped. Satisfied, he leaned against the chair and closed his eyes. Huh. 2nd level body refining realm. What did you eat? Breaking through a small level so quickly, are you a genius? Suddenly, the old man's eyes opened wide. His turbid eyes shot out a ray of light as he asked in astonishment. Maybe. Yi Qinghan indifferently smiled. Stepping out of the door in the cold wind, he walked towards the blacksmith shop. Boom boom boom. Hum hum hum. An ear-splitting roar came from the blacksmith shop. Fortunately, there was no one around the blacksmith shop. Otherwise, people would die from the noise. Uncle Han, I'm here to buy an ironware, Yi Qinghan shouted as he looked at a fierce-looking middle-aged man wearing only a vest. Big Hammer Han was the only blacksmith in town. He relied on refining weapons to support his family. The weapons here were of low quality, so there were not many profits to be made. There was not even a single apprentice. In the past, Yi Qinghan would often come here to help and earn a living. You brat, you haven't come to help for a few days. Why are you buying ironware? Could it be that you want to go hunting in the mountains? Dachui Han looked at the skinny Yi Qinghan and asked curiously. Yeah, do you have a knife here? I have 1 tael of silver here. Find me a suitable weapon. Yi Qinghan smiled and threw the last tael of silver he had to Big Hammer Han. Big Hammer Han took the silver and looked at Yi Qinghan. He didn't say anything and pointed at an ancient black saber. It was about 3 feet long and didn't have any aura. The blade was very thick and looked like a blunt woodcutter. I spent 1 tael of silver to buy it from Wang Ergu. It's quite heavy. I thought I could melt it and polish it to make the blade sharper. But no matter how I burned it or hammered it, it couldn't be broken or flattened. It couldn't even be chopped. Try it. If you like it, take it. If you don't like it, I'll find you a better one. Big Hammer Han spoke in a strange dialect. He was obviously angry that he had wasted 1 tael of silver. Yi Qinghan was curious. Big Hammer Han's strength was at least 500 and 600 pounds, but he couldn't even flatten the knife. He reached out and lifted the handle. He realized that the knife was quite heavy, more than 15 pounds. His palm itched and he felt a trace of spiritual energy fluctuation. He immediately understood. This was clearly a grade 2 spirit weapon. However, it had not been sharpened, so it was no different from a piece of trash. If it was sharpened by a grade 2 blacksmith, this knife would be worth at least 10,000 taels of silver. The weight was just right. Yi Qinghan waved his arm and nodded in satisfaction. It seems that I have to make a simple sharpening for it. Otherwise, it will just rely on its weight to smash people. Yi Qinghan was a grade 5 blacksmith in the past. The 7-foot crazy hammer in his hand was forged by him. With his current strength, he might not be able to forge a grade 2 weapon, but he could still make a simple sharpening. Alright, I'll buy it. Yi Qinghan said excitedly, Uncle Han, let me borrow your furnace. I'll see if I can sharpen it. You can try. I'm at my wit's end. I wasted an entire day and still couldn't sharpen it. It's a waste of space to just leave it there. Big Hammer Han sat to the side and rested. He threw the big hammer to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan threw the knife into the burning furnace. Although the ordinary fire couldn't burn the knife, it could soften it a little. 2 hours later, the sky darkened and the light snow scattered. Yi Qinghan let out a breath of foul air. If the snow sealed the mountain tonight, then there was no need to enter the mountain. All the spirit herbs would be covered. Even if they entered the mountain, they would only be able to hunt a few wild animals. The knife was burned red. Yi Qinghan used an iron clamp to get the knife out. He lifted the big hammer that was almost 100 pounds and fiercely smashed it. However, his technique was very skillful. He attached the true energy in his body to the big hammer and continuously sharpened the knife. Boom, 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 sparks flew everywhere. The blunt and thick knife became thinner. Big Hammer Han's eyes widened in disbelief. How did his strength become so great? But my strength is even greater than his. Why can't I sharpen the knife? Big Hammer Han's heart was filled with doubt. He stared at Yi Qinghan even more curiously. Yi Qinghan did not know fatigue. He continued to sharpen the knife crazily. The strength in his body combined with his true energy was like a machine. 2 hours passed, 4 hours passed, the strength in his body was exhausted. True energy flowed through his body and stimulated his potential. The strength gushed out of his body like a fountain. The speed of improvement was even faster than eating body-strengthening pills. 500 pounds of strength. After gaining strength, Yi Qinghan began to move again. This time, his speed was even faster than before. The knife was still black, but the knife's edge had appeared and was emitting a black light. Looking at his work, he wasn't satisfied. He threw it back into the furnace to be calcined. After an hour, he took it out and continued to sharpen it. The sky was completely dark, but the knife's edge had already appeared. Even though it wasn't as sharp as a grade 2 spiritual weapon, it could still easily cut through ordinary iron. He threw the knife into the ice water and it sizzled. The ice water emitted white mist and the temperature dropped rapidly. From now on, you'll be my weapon. I'll call you Frenzied for now. It won't be a disgrace for you to be in my hands. Yi Qinghan muttered in his heart. He reached out and took out the cooled knife. His finger gently slid across the knife's edge. The blood was absorbed by the knife. Then, the frenzied knife trembled slightly, as if it had merged with Yi Qinghan. Uncle Han, I'm taking advantage of you. This knife might be worth a lot. Yi Qinghan didn't want to lie to Big Hammer Han, so he told him directly. It's fine. Since you obtained it, it means that it's fated with you. I hammered it for an entire day and it didn't change shape. It's not fated with me, so I won't be envious. Big Hammer Han waved his hand and said straightforwardly. Yi Qinghan nodded. It seemed that Big Hammer Han's character wasn't bad. He didn't ask for more money or snatch the knife back just because Yi Qinghan had sharpened it. Taking advantage of the night, Yi Qinghan rushed into the darkness. The black knife, black warrior's clothes, and long black hair disappeared in the blink of an eye. Big Hammer Han looked at Yi Qinghan's disappearing figure and muttered, "This little guy has changed." Sha sha sha, Yi Qinghan's speed was extremely fast. It was comparable to the speed of a 5th or 6th level body refinement realm cultivator. His figure was ethereal, and in an instant, he was more than 10 meters away. Even if the great revered martial artist of the past couldn't use the extreme divine dragon steps, he could still use the rank 2 martial technique, ethereal flying. Specters flashed, the dark clouds in the sky dispersed, and the stars dotted the sky. The endless universe was magnificent. A small star like Owl Falling Star was so beautiful, and the endless universe was so attractive. Yi Qinghan wanted to soar into the sky and fight until he reached the Tao sovereign realm. He wanted to kill all the filthy people and avenge the countless lives on Owl War Star that had died tragically. The 100,000 mountains were deep and distant. Even the countless ancestors of Wanshan town didn't go more than 100 li deep. 100 li deep was a forbidden area. Even a blood ignition realm cultivator couldn't come out. The mountains rose and fell. Bare ancient trees and proud pine trees alternated. When the cold wind blew, the leaves danced. Yi Qinghan's clothes fluttered in the wind. The bone-piercing cold wind made him shiver. The bone-piercing cold wind made Yi Qinghan even more awake. Under the milky white moonlight, he could vaguely see a stalk of withered grass on the ground. A wolf, it was late at night. A wolf's howl shook the heavens and earth. The startled birds hid in their nests. Most of the animals had already hibernated. Other than wild rabbits, there were no other animals. The wild wolves in winter were the most savage. They could tear apart leopards and snatch food from the tiger's mouth. In a valley, a pack of wolves appeared. There were at least 7 or 8 of them. They were as thin as firewood. Their green eyes allowed them to see in the dark. They could clearly see prey a few li away. They had already gone crazy from hunger. They desperately wreaked havoc as they chased after wild rabbits. Unfortunately, their appetites couldn't be satisfied with just a few wild rabbits. They needed more meat to satisfy themselves. Yi Qinghan gripped his heavy berserk blade and galloped. Based on his many years of experience, he ran to the valley where the spirit grass was most likely to be found. A wolf, another wolf howl. Yi Qinghan's footsteps came to an abrupt halt. He stuck close to an ancient tree and raised his eyes to look into the distance. A row of gloomy eyes kept approaching. A mouthful of fangs was shocking to the eye. Some of the wolves' mouths were still dripping with blood and hair. They had discovered Yi Qinghan. They were especially sensitive to the aura of humans, especially cultivators with vigorous blood and qi. The distance between the two sides was less than 300 meters. Chapter 8. With a roar, the alpha wolf took the lead and pounced on Yi Qinghan. The other wolves formed an encirclement and moved as fast as lightning. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Huff, 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 the urgent sounds made Yi Qinghan tense up. He turned around and fled into the dense forest, hoping to use the trees to block the wolves' attacks and the narrow space to disperse them. As expected, the distance between the 8 wolves widened as they fled into the forest. Their eyes were like torches as they stared fixedly at Yi Qinghan. They did not slow down at all. Yi Qinghan's figure flickered and suddenly disappeared into the forest. He was like a ghost overlooking the forest, making the wolves restless. A whoa, anxious roars resounded through the forest. Beasts were constantly frightened and fled in all directions. Some of the wolves could not stand the hunger and no longer cared about Yi Qinghan's whereabouts. They chased after the other beasts in a frenzy. Yi Qinghan stuck close to a tree. His hair was disheveled and blended in with the tree. His entire body was black. If one did not see him up close, one would not even know that he was a human. The saber in his hand trembled slightly as if it wanted to drink blood. A wild wolf sniffed the air, its nose twitching as it cautiously looked around. Then it approached Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan had actually concealed part of his aura. Unfortunately, he was too weak and could not completely conceal it. Otherwise, even if a martial artist came, they would not be able to find him, let alone a wolf. 10 meters to the left of Yi Qinghan, a wolf was constantly approaching. The rustling sound made one's hair stand on end. 5 meters, 3 meters, 2 meters, swoosh, Yi Qinghan slashed out with his saber. There was no sound at all. The wolf only had time to see a black shadow flash by. It raised its head high and wanted to bite its enemy. However, it did not expect Yi Qinghan's saber to be more agile than a spirit snake. The saber that was slashing down from above suddenly changed direction and slashed through the air. Puchi, the grade 2 saber was driven by a powerful force and cut off the wolf's head. Blood sprayed out. Yi Qinghan moved again. His saber was not stained with blood, and his body was not stained with blood. Roar, the Wolf King smelled the blood of its own kind and immediately roared in anger, rushing towards the dead wolf. The other wolves followed closely behind. Looking at the two halves of their own kind, even if they were crazy from hunger, they would not choose to eat their dead companion's body. They roared together, their green eyes ghastly and terrifying. The remaining 7 wolves did not split up this time. Under the lead of the Wolf King, they quickly approached a large tree. The Wolf King howled, and the wolves split up, surrounding the tree. Roar, at the Wolf King's command, they all rushed to the back of the tree. 7 wild wolves surrounded the tree at the same time, but when they went around the tree, they only found a few drops of blood. There was no one there. To capture bandits, first capture the ringleader. Yi Qinghan was indeed not at the bottom of the tree, but at the top of the tree. When the wolves arrived at the bottom of the tree and saw the drops of blood, they were stunned. At that moment, a black shadow rushed towards the Wolf King. A black blade wrapped in true energy rushed towards the ground, sending sand and stones flying. Groan, roar, the blade whistled and the wolves howled. The Wolf King's reaction was extremely fast. It turned its body and roared, wanting to bite off Yi Qinghan's arm. However, as the soul of a great martial revered, Yi Qinghan's martial arts skills and experience in killing enemies, how could he give it a chance? Heavy berserker god-slaying style, die. The blade flashed, and the blade fell. More than half of the majestic true energy in his body was consumed in an instant. This blade was a 5th-grade martial arts technique, the 3rd style of the heavy berserker 9 styles. It was a self-created blade technique. Even a Dao sovereign would not be able to dodge it, let alone a wolf. The Wolf King died instantly. Yi Qinghan somersaulted in the air, dodging the attack of another wolf. He stomped on a rock, and his body flashed like an arrow, disappearing in a flash. The Wolf King's death instantly caused the remaining 6 wild wolves to collapse. They roared continuously, and their sharp claws tore apart the tree trunk. The wild wolves that never ate their own kind were actually crazily devouring the Wolf King's body. Wolves eating their own kind represented that their soul would walk the world, and their vengeance would begin. Yi Qinghan coldly swept his eyes over the wolves, and then disappeared into the darkness. He continued to madly run, not wanting to compete with these crazy and stubborn wild wolves. Half an hour later, the night was as dark as ink, and it was dawn. Yi Qinghan had already penetrated more than 30 miles. He killed a wild rabbit and made a simple barbecue to replenish his strength. Then he quickly left the area. With great difficulty, he found a cave where he could rest. Yi Qinghan entered the cave, and set up a trap at the entrance. He then sat down on a cold stone and began to meditate. The body refinement technique had already reached the peak of the 2nd layer. The true energy in his body was constantly increasing, flowing through his meridians, tempering his body, and emitting heat to resist the harsh cold. The next day, the sky gradually brightened. Yi Qinghan gently opened his eyes, and discovered that he had broken through to the 3rd layer of body refinement in his sleep. The spirit energy in the 100,000 mountains was very rich. Even if he did not absorb the spirit energy, it would still involuntarily enter his body. Although it quickly spread in all directions, Yi Qinghan could still tell that the voice came from the bird's nest. "Little thing, you dare to trick me?" Yi Qinghan sneered. There were many birds that could speak. Some were too powerful, so powerful that they could be compared to a great revered martial artist. However, there were also some spirit birds that were very intelligent. They knew how to speak from a young age, such as parrots. Yi Qinghan gently climbed up the branches and slowly approached the bird's nest. In the giant bird's nest, a fat parrot was secretly watching him. When it saw Yi Qinghan climb up, it was immediately shocked. "Get out of this old man's territory. If you dare to blaspheme this lord's cultivation ground again, you will die without a burial place." The parrot's feathers stood on end. Its fat body constantly twisted. It wanted to fly, but it could not. It could only scare Yi Qinghan. "Is that so? Let's see how you'll make me die without a burial place." Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched slightly. He sneered at the parrot. The parrot's right wing was obviously injured. It was a scratch. Looking at the bloodstains, it should have been scratched by a flying eagle. Therefore, it could not fly. A parrot that can cultivate. It's a good thing. This is the first time I've seen one, Yi Qinghan joked. Chapter 9. A parrot that can cultivate is a good thing. This is the first time I've seen one, Yi Qinghan joked. The parrot stood upright with its wings covering its belly. It looked at Yi Qinghan vigilantly. Its expression was very human-like. It was a bit panicked, but it pretended to be calm. "I'm a divine bird. I've fallen into the mortal world. Why don't you quickly greet me?" the parrot said angrily. "Divine bird? I'll slap you out of the 100,000 mountains." Yi Qinghan stood on the tree trunk with a disdainful look on his face. He threw the parrot's words back at it. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and was about to hit it. The parrot's imposing manner suddenly dropped. It quickly compromised and said, "Young man, let's talk nicely. A gentleman uses his mouth, not his fists." "My mouth? Oh, I would have forgotten if you didn't mention it. I'm hungry. Look at your fat body and full of spirit energy. It's definitely more delicious than the blood ginseng," Yi Qinghan suddenly said. The parrot's white feathers suddenly stood up like a phoenix spreading its wings. However, it was frightened. "What? You want to eat the great divine bird? You damned mortal." The parrot was furious. It wanted to fly away, but its wings were not strong enough. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and grabbed the parrot's two thick legs. He licked his lips and pretended to be angry. "Hee hee. It seems you really want to be eaten by me. You still dare to scold me." No. I don't mean that. Young man, take the blood ginseng and leave." "I don't want it. I'll give it to you." The parrot suddenly lost its integrity and surrendered. "Thank you very much. But I'm still very hungry," Yi Qinghan said. He waved his hand and cut off a few withered branches. He took out a flint and prepared to roast the parrot. The parrot panicked. It saw that this guy didn't seem to be lying. It abandoned its bottom line and begged, "I'm such a cute divine bird. Are you willing to eat me? Don't tell me you don't want a handsome and mighty divine bird as a pet." "Pet? What use do you have? I don't need a pet." Yi Qinghan flatly refused the parrot's request. No. I'm very useful. I'm not an ordinary parrot. I'm a spirit-devouring divine parrot. I can quickly discover treasures with spiritual energy. Do you want to own a treasure? Take me in. Do you want to find a better blood ginseng? Take me in. Do you want a cute, smart, and useful pet? Take me in. I beg of you, I don't want to be eaten. Boo-hoo. The parrot had no moral integrity at all. Tears and snot streamed down its face as it knelt down on Yi Qinghan's arm. Spirit-devouring divine parrot? Yi Qinghan frowned. He had lived for hundreds of years and had never heard of this creature. However, it was strange that this parrot could cultivate. Yes. Yes. My ancestor once followed a great expert of the divine martial realm. At that time, Tao Venerate Divine Martial was still a child. With my ancestor's help, Tao Venerate Divine Martial was able to reach the peak of the body refinement realm. The parrot quickly explained. Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't remember an existence called Tao Venerate Divine Martial. This kind of peerless expert was famous throughout the ages. Logically speaking, he should have heard of him. However, Yi Qinghan didn't really want to kill it. He only wanted to scare it and bring it back to Mengxi. Hearing that this spirit-devouring divine parrot had such abilities, he couldn't help but become interested. Since you're so capable, then help me find a better spirit grass. I'll believe you. Yi Qinghan pretended to not believe it and asked in a low voice. I'm injured. The spirit-devouring divine parrot said with grievance. Alright, I'm really hungry. Yi Qinghan rubbed his stomach and threatened. Alright, I'm afraid of you. Actually, there's a blood ginseng at the top of the mountain. It's twice as big as yours. If it wasn't for the fact that I can't go up, I would have already eaten it. The spirit-devouring divine parrot was helpless. It wanted to take the blood ginseng for itself, but it seemed impossible. Yi Qinghan looked deeply at the parrot. He felt that this fellow couldn't be trusted. If he didn't threaten it, it definitely wouldn't have told him that there was something good up there. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Yi Qinghan quickly ran to the top of the mountain and found a blood ginseng that was so red that it was dripping with blood. It almost rushed out of the ground to find a better place to absorb spirit qi. It was rumored that this thing could take human form, but no one had seen it before. This was an existence on the level of an immortal medicine. You really didn't lie to me. 1,000-year-old ingredient, it has already surpassed the level of a 4th-rank spirit medicine. Yi Qinghan was excited. This kind of thing, even he would be envious of it in the past. How is it? I traveled a long distance and flew here. I was injured by this blood ginseng's guardian eagle, but it was also killed by me. I didn't think that it would benefit you. No, this blood ginseng appeared because it was waiting for its master. The spirit-devouring divine parrot saw Yi Qinghan's unfriendly gaze and immediately changed its words. At least you know your place. Yi Qinghan was too lazy to deal with this unprincipled parrot. He threw it to the side and began to dig for the blood ginseng. The spirit-devouring divine parrot trembled and gently moved its feet. It trembled slightly and was ready to escape. If you dare to move again, I'll pluck all your feathers and roast them. Yi Qinghan didn't even raise his head and directly threatened. The spirit-devouring divine parrot immediately straightened its body and looked at Yi Qinghan with a serious expression. It said flatteringly, Master, I just want to see if there are any good things around. How could I want to leave you? Yi Qinghan ignored it and continued to dig. A blood ginseng that was as long as a chopstick and weighed at least 1 jin was quickly unearthed. The spiritual energy was extremely dense, and the spirit-devouring divine parrot was drooling. After putting away the blood ginseng, Yi Qinghan stared at the spirit-devouring divine parrot and coldly said, Is there any good things around here? Don't lie to me. If I find out, you won't be able to bear the consequences. I'm definitely not lying to you. I've already eaten all the spirit fruits in these mountains. If you want to go deeper, your cultivation. The spirit-devouring divine parrot smiled embarrassedly, not daring to provoke Yi Qinghan. Sign a contract with me. Yi Qinghan coldly said. What contract? I don't know how to do that. The spirit-devouring divine parrot's innocent eyes darted around. It didn't want to become someone's spirit pet. Right now, it was just a temporary measure. Once it signed the contract, it wouldn't be able to escape. Hee hee. It seems like you're not afraid of death at all. Yi Qinghan wiped the tip of his blade and coldly laughed. I remember now. We can sign a spirit pet contract. The spirit-devouring divine parrot pretended to be enlightened and hurriedly chanted the contract incantation. From the parrot's head, a beam of light shot into Yi Qinghan's consciousness. Once the contract was formed, Yi Qinghan could instantly sense the spirit-devouring divine parrot's memories. He couldn't help but say in surprise, "You really are the spirit-devouring divine parrot." The spirit-devouring divine parrot. Master, can you let me eat that small blood ginseng first to heal my wounds? Half is fine, or 1/3 is fine too. Master, please reconsider. 1/5. Don't waste it. When we get back to town, I'll get you a veterinarian. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and grabbed the spirit-devouring divine parrot onto his shoulder. He looked at the sky and saw that it wasn't noon yet. He planned to go back to the outskirts and catch a few wild beasts before returning. A figure was running at high speed. On the way back, he bumped into the pack of wolves. The pack of wolves was extremely hostile towards Yi Qinghan. They bared their fangs, revealing their eerie teeth that were extremely terrifying. Humph. Yi Qinghan's killing intent was aroused. He tied the bag to his waist and rushed forward with his blade. His figure was graceful as he dashed forward. Every time he brushed past a wolf or even a few wolves, his blade would take away a wolf's life. Swish swish swish. Boom. After a few slashes, 4 wolves were killed. He lifted his leg and kicked one away. Another one pounced on Yi Qinghan's head. Just as it was about to open its bloody mouth and bite off Yi Qinghan's neck, its throat was struck by Yi Qinghan's fist. Awoo! The wild wolf's throat was broken. It let out a miserable cry and struggled for a few moments before dying completely. Swish, 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 Yi Qinghan quickly peeled off the wolf's skin. These wolves were so thin that they were just skin and bones. There wasn't much meat, but the wolf's skin was pretty good. These 6 wolves could be used to make clothes for Meng Shi and Wang Shi. Damn, Master, who taught you your speed and martial arts? It's not something a body refinement realm martial artist can use. Yi Qinghan could see the spirit-devouring divine parrot's memories, but it couldn't see Yi Qinghan's memories. This was the restriction of the contract. It was an unequal contract. It was completely dominated by the human. What does it have to do with you? Yi Qinghan coldly asked in return. No, but I am proud of you. The spirit-devouring divine parrot shamelessly replied. Yi Qinghan put away the wolf's skin and quickly rushed to the outskirts of the 100,000 mountains. When he passed by the place he was at yesterday, he spread out his divine sense. He could actually cover a radius of 1,000 meters. He could clearly feel the breathing of any small animal. Divine sense was equivalent to a missile tracker. Yi Qinghan bent down and picked up a few rocks. He continuously threw them into the distance. Xiu xiu xiu. Ordinary rocks became the most powerful hidden weapons. Many wild rabbits fell to the ground without even having the chance to scream. After killing more than 30 wild rabbits, Yi Qinghan stopped. He couldn't take any more. He carried the 30 plump wild rabbits and quickly returned to Wanshan town. When he passed by the Yi family, a group of people noticed him and were all shocked. This trash can actually hunt. A few of the Yi family's youths looked at the wild rabbits and drooled. Brat, leave the rabbits behind. How about you let your brother eat them? The Yi family's young leader, Yi Tsonghu, had a look of disdain as he blocked Yi Qinghan's way. Yi Qinghan looked up. Yi Tsonghu, Yi Tsongshan, Yi Tsongbao, and Yi Chenmeng were all outstanding members of the Yi family's younger generation. They were all at the 3rd to 4th rank of the body refinement realm. In Wanshan town, they were ranked in the top. However, their characters were not good. When it came to Yi Qinghan, they either scolded him or beat him up. Get lost. You dare to talk to the master like that? Are you tired of living? The spirit-devouring divine parrot arrogantly scolded with a face full of disdain. The white spirit-devouring divine parrot looked very cute. Everyone's eyes lit up, especially Yi Qinmeng. What a cute parrot. Trash, give this parrot to your elder sister and I guarantee that you can return to the Yi family. Moreover, no one will bully you. How about it? Yi Qinmeng arrogantly said. Yi Qinghan's eyes emitted a cold aura. A cold murderous aura rushed out of his body. The corners of his mouth rose and the blade in his hand trembled. In the end, he endured it. Now was not the time to kill because he wasn't strong enough. Chapter 10. A few of the Yi clan's younger generation members all surrounded him. Yi Qinmeng even reached out to grab the devouring divine parrot. Scram! Yi Qinghan coldly shouted. His entire body emitted a cold aura. His eyes were filled with the will to destroy the heavens as he swept his saber in all directions. Aya, what the fuck, you trash dare to hit us. Today, I'll beat you to death. Yi Tsonghu and the rest dodged in a sorry state. A bloody wound appeared on Yi Qinmeng's hand. They flew into a rage out of humiliation, but they didn't know that Yi Qinghan had already shown them mercy. They opened their mouths to curse and clamor. Yi Qinghan didn't want to kill anyone right now. He didn't want to officially break off relations with the Yi clan. He wasn't strong enough, so he could only endure all the humiliation. His eyes became colder and colder. There was a limit to his patience. Don't provoke me. I'm not a member of the Yi clan. If you dare to offend me again, I'll grant you death. Yi Qinghan coldly said. Hee hee. You're all grown up now. Not a member of the Yi clan. Fine, even if I kill you today, it won't be considered as killing a member of the same clan. Yi Tsonghu coldly laughed. Yi Qinghan didn't pay any attention to him. He carried the several hundred gene wild hair and turned around to walk towards the center of the town, leaving everyone with a proud back view. Yi Tsonghu and the rest were furious. They didn't think that Yi Qinghan would look down on them so much. He actually left his back to them. You're courting death. 100-step tiger-breaking fist. Yi Tsonghu's veins popped out. He punched out with a force of 600 to 700 gene. Clearly, he wanted to kill Yi Qinghan. The powerful fist was like a hot knife through butter. In the blink of an eye, it was already behind him. Kill this bastard, but leave the parrot behind. Yi Qinmeng clamored. Yi Qinghan felt the wind blowing at his back. It was as if he had eyes on his back. He suddenly turned around and used his heavy berserk saber to meet Yi Tsonghu's 100-step tiger-breaking fist. Boom! Yi Qinghan did not move an inch, but blood spurted from Yi Tsonghu's fist. His body was like a kite with a broken string, constantly retreating. Ah! Yi Tsonghu let out a blood-curdling scream. He felt as if his fist had hit a red-hot soldering iron. The heart-wrenching pain caused him to retreat 5 or 6 meters and sit on the ground. The hatred and anger in his eyes were self-evident. How is that possible? How could this trash be so powerful? I actually lost to trash. Yi Tsonghu murmured as he looked at his fist in disbelief. The bloodstains on it and the stinging pain that came from it woke him up from his dream. Yi Qinmeng and the others were also dumbfounded. Yi Qinghan was famous for being a piece of trash who didn't even have the strength to truss up a chicken. Who would have thought that he would be able to send Yi Qinghan flying with a single punch and not even move an inch? Yi Qinghan's hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. He glanced at Yi Tsonghu indifferently before turning to leave. A bunch of trash. How dare you go against my great master? When this divine bird recovers, I will trample you mortals. The spirit-devouring divine parrot sneered arrogantly. You. Yi Chen-meng was flustered and exasperated. She wanted to snatch it again but was afraid of Yi Qinghan, so she could only stomp her feet. Go to hell. Yi Tsonghu jumped up from the ground and pulled out his sword, thrusting it towards Yi Qinghan's back. Xiao, Yi Tsonghu had always been the Yi clan's sword genius. The Yi clan's basic sword techniques had already reached the 6th layer. Other than the Yi clan's genius, Yi Changlong, no one else could compare to him. The sword qi was bone-piercing. Yi Qinghan frowned and turned around indifferently. He placed his saber in front of his chest and blocked the sword qi. The sharp sound pierced into the ears and was unbearable. Ah! So noisy. The spirit-devouring divine parrot flapped its wings to protect its ears, but it still couldn't stop the noise from entering its ears. Xing, 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 Yi Tsonghu was defeated again and retreated a few steps. His face was pale and he looked at Yi Qinghan unwillingly. His eyes were filled with confusion. He didn't understand how Yi Qinghan suddenly became so powerful that he could defeat him so easily. I can crush someone like you with a finger. I didn't make a move not because I'm afraid of you or the Yi clan, but because I don't want to break my vow to kill. You are not worthy of being killed by me. Don't provoke me anymore. Otherwise, let alone the Yi clan, even the entire Wanshan town won't be able to protect you. Yi Qinghan was disdainful and the corner of his mouth curled up. To others, he was arrogant, but every word he said was true. Yi Qinghan was about to leave when a few people suddenly appeared. His pupils shrank and the killing intent in his eyes was self-evident. Wang Hao, Wang Xiaoyun, Su Ziqing, Su Zimeng. Yi Qinghan recalled the scene of the previous owner's death. It was the few of them who had fought with the people from the Yi clan. They had beaten the previous owner, Yi Qinghan, to death, and he had coincidentally taken over this body. Yo, isn't this trash? You survived a great disaster and now you're shouting at Big Brother Tsonghu. Did you eat some immortal treasure? Wang Hao looked at Yi Qinghan with a mocking expression. The ridicule in his eyes was very obvious. Maybe the Yi clan is too useless. This trash can actually beat Yi Tsonghu back so far. I really don't know how much of a trash he is. Su Zimeng looked pretty good, but her words were very vicious. Her one sentence almost angered Yi Tsonghu to death. That's right, I really don't know how he got to the 4th layer of body refinement. Could it be that the Yi clan bragged about it? Wang Xiaoyun held Su Zimeng's arm and also mocked. Pooh, Yi Tsonghu had already suffered internal injuries. After being provoked by these words, he was so angry that he spat out blood. His face turned pale and lost all color. Yi Qinghan noticed that Yi Tsonghu did not resent them after being ridiculed by these people. Instead, he looked at him with even more hatred. He could not help but sneer. This kind of trash was not worth his anger. He turned around and was about to leave. Stop! Trash, did I allow you to leave? Su Zimeng's figure flashed and appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. Her face was full of arrogance as she asked. After running for a day and night, Yi Qinghan's face was covered in dirt and dust. His handsome face was in a sorry state. Su Zimeng thought that Yi Qinghan was the trash that she could bully. She did not guard against Yi Qinghan at all. Pa! A loud slap resounded through the Yi clan's gate. Su Zimeng's body spun a few times before stopping. Then, her delicate face became like a bun and swollen in an instant. Yi Qinghan did not reply and directly walked past Su Zimeng as if the slap was not from him. However, everyone only heard the sound of a slap and did not see that it was from Yi Qinghan. Su Zimeng was stunned by the slap. Her face was burning and the swelling became more and more obvious. In the end, she lost all sense of pain. After Yi Qinghan walked past her for a few breaths, Su Zimeng finally reacted. She immediately screamed and roared, "Ah! You dare to hit me!" Su Ziqing was unhappy when he heard this. Su Zimeng was his sister. Wang Hao was also furious. After all, Su Zimeng was his fiancée in name. Go! Kill this trash! Su Ziqing and Wang Hao looked at each other, then stabbed their swords towards Yiqinghan's back. Sword chi flashed, and light flashed. Among the younger generation, the two of them were considered to be the best. One on the left and one on the right. They thought that killing Yiqinghan would be a piece of cake. However, their pupils suddenly shrank because they had lost sight of Yiqinghan. Bang bang bang, a few muffled sounds of flesh hitting flesh were especially clear. Yiqinghan's speed was extremely fast. His punches and kicks were combined with his strength. It was at least 800 gene of strength. Even a bear would be knocked unconscious. Pooh! Ah! Su Ziqing and Wang Hao screamed. Their bodies twisted as they fell to the ground. They felt knives stabbing into their bodies. Their faces were pale. However, Yiqinghan did not want to stop. He aimed at their ankles and stomped down. Kacha, ankles were very fragile. With Yiqinghan's strength, they immediately shattered. The two strong youths did not even have the chance to scream. Their eyes rolled back and they fainted. His speed was too fast. They did not know how Yiqinghan had defeated two youths at the 4th level of body refinement. Moreover, these two youths were veterans at the 4th level of body refinement. Whether it was strength or height, they were far superior to Yiqinghan. Su Zimeng did not say anything. She muttered as she looked at Yiqinghan. Her face was swollen like a big bun. Wang Xiaoyun did not dare to say anything. She looked at the cold boy in front of her. He was not the trash that was beaten up 2 days ago. Do you still want to fight? Yiqinghan glanced at the crowd and asked. Su Zimeng screamed and ran away. She did not even want her brother or her fiancé. She was afraid that Yiqinghan would beat her up in anger. Wang Xiaoyun's legs trembled. She wanted to run but did not have the courage. Her arrogance in the past had become a joke. Yi Tsonghu and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. They did not dare to be arrogant anymore. Their eyes were filled with horror. The screams and screams from the Yi clan's gate attracted a large number of people from the town center. The Yi clan's experts were also alarmed. Finally, even the Su and Wang clans came. 6th uncle. You have to give me justice. Woo-woo. Su Zimeng met the Su clan's deacon Su Yining halfway and immediately burst into tears. Fuck. Who hit them? They even dared to hit my Su clan's people. Are they tired of living? Su Yining did not ask for the reason. His eyes flashed with an ominous light. It was clear that if the upper beam was not straight, the lower beam would be crooked. That was why there were juniors like Su Zimeng and Su Ziqing. It was the Yi clan's trash, Yiqinghan. I don't know what kind of demonic martial arts he used. He beat my brother Ziqing and brother Wang Hao to the ground and was not satisfied. He even cruelly crushed their ankles. Su Zimeng avoided the main point and complained tearfully. Come with me. I want to see how strong this trash is. Su Yining's eyes revealed a trace of killing intent. This time, he might be able to join forces with the Su clan to beat the Yi clan until they could not crawl back up. The Yi clan's gate was full of people. They surrounded Yiqinghan in the center. Their faces were not good. There were also some people who were purely here to watch the show. They did not have the slightest bit of pity for Yiqinghan. Instead, they had the intention to ridicule him. When did this trash become so bold? He actually dared to beat up the Yi clans, Wang clans, and Su clan's direct disciples at the same time. Today, I think it will be difficult for him to escape death. A middle-aged man's mouth revealed a trace of ridicule. He looked at Yi Qinghan and did not hide his attitude at all. Hee hee. We're all from the 3 great clans. We're just here to watch the show. These people bully the weak every day. They're all dogs that can't change their habits. It's best if both sides suffer. Someone lowered his voice. It was unclear who spoke, but everyone heard it clearly. Chapter 11. Yi Qinghan was carrying over 30 wild rabbits and wearing wolf pelts. He looked extremely bloated and comical. He glanced at the crowd and wanted to leave, but no one was willing to let him go. The elders of the 3 great clans had also arrived. Brat, you want to run after beating someone up? Do you think Wanshan Town is your home? Su Yining coldly shouted as he pushed through the crowd. Let someone from the Yi clan come out and speak. If you don't give my Wang clan an explanation, I won't let this matter go. Wang Hao's 4th uncle also squeezed in. Seeing the unconscious Wang Hao, he immediately flew into a rage. He looked at Yi Qinghan as if he was looking at a dead man. They were both at the 6th layer of body refinement with a strength of over 3,000 jin. Any one of them was enough to make Yi Qinghan suffer, not to mention the 2 of them were so shameless. Once one of them was in danger, the other would definitely join forces. My physical strength is currently at 900 jin. Even with the support of a martial technique, I can explode with 2,000 jin of strength. It is still impossible to defeat someone at the 6th layer of body refinement. Yi Qinghan stared at the 2 people in front of him, but his mind was constantly thinking. If I use the level 5 violent blade technique, I might be able to kill one. If I use up all my strength, I might be able to kill 2 at the 6th layer of body refinement. But here, without strength, wouldn't I just be waiting for death? Yi Qinghan obviously wouldn't perish together with a group of villagers. Explanation? What explanation do you want? Didn't you see that my Yi clan member was also beaten up? My Yi clan still wants an explanation from this little bastard. Yi Tsonghu's father, Yi Yun, walked out of the Yi clan with a face full of anger. He fiercely glared at Yi Tsonghu, then looked down at Yi Qinghan with eyes full of killing intent. Yi Qinghan tightly gripped his violent blade, his eyes flashing fiercely. He took a deep breath to adjust his state of mind and coldly asked, "What explanation do you want?" "Then who will give me an explanation?" "You little bastard hurt people first and you still want an explanation? Today, I will cripple you on behalf of your father." Yi Yun was furious. He wanted to kill Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan put down the prey on his body. He had completely given up on the Yi family. The divine soul-devouring parrot finally couldn't hold it in any longer. These people simply had no bottom line and no moral integrity. They didn't even care about their faces. Their own children were the ones who committed the crime first, and they actually dared to complain first. He was even more shameless than her. "You shameless bastards! You dare to humiliate my master like this? Be careful that this divine bird doesn't get angry. I'll send down divine flames and send you to the afterlife." The parrot stood up and roared, looking very comical. "Bastard, how dare you insult me? I'll roast you today." Su Yining coldly glanced at the parrot. Suddenly, his interest was piqued. He thought, this thing is rare. The second son of the Jiangning County's county governor likes these things the most. If I snatch it and give it to the second son, wouldn't my Su family be able to gain a foothold in Jiangning County? At the same time, Su Yining was not the only one who had the same idea. Yi Yun and the Wang clan's 4th uncle also had their eyes on the spirit-devouring godly parrot. The spirit-devouring godly parrot was startled by these undisguised gazes. It quickly shut its mouth. "Yi Qinghan, since you are of the Yi family's bloodline, give this little thing to the Yi family. We'll also fine you 2,000 silvers to pay the Su and Wang clan's medical fees. Then we'll forget about today's matter." Yi Yun not only didn't help Yi Qinghan, but also took advantage of the situation. This kind of uncle was really strange. No, our Su clan wants this parrot. As for the 2,000 silvers, we'll leave it for your 2 injured children. Su Yining decisively said. The Wang clan doesn't lack money. I want this rare parrot. The Wang clan's 4th uncle also stated his request. Ha! Yi Qinghan was not angry, but instead laughed. His laughter made people shiver. He then coldly asked, what if I don't hand it over? You don't have the right to speak here. Shut up. The 3 6th-level body refinement cultivators shouted at the same time. All of you shut up for me. A bunch of trash. Your children are injured and instead of treating them, you're chattering here. Are you still my elders? Yi Kuang's face was filled with black lines. Seeing Yi Yun's way of handling things, he was greatly disappointed. Su Yining and Wang Laoxi's old faces turned red. They had no words to refute. They could only let their own family members carry Su Ziqing and Wang Hao back, leaving Su Zimeng and Wang Xiaoyun here. At least there would be witnesses and material evidence. Yi Tsonghu, tell us everything that happened in full detail. If you lie, this old man will expel you from the Yi clan and never return. Yi Kuang was extremely angry. The Yi clan was becoming more and more dilapidated. Each generation was worse than the last. Yi Tsonghu's face changed greatly. He quickly told the story in full detail. Su Yining and Wang Laoxi's faces turned even redder. Their own family's younger generation took the initiative to provoke others. They could only say that they deserved to be beaten. But to leave like this, that was too inferior. I only wanted to see his parrot. But he attacked me. Brother Ziqing and Brother Wang Hao tried to stop him. But Yi Qinghan's sneak attacked my brother. He already knocked them down and even broke their ankles. He clearly wanted to kill them. He is vicious and merciless. 6th uncle, everything I said is the truth. You have to give me justice. Su Zimeng knew what Su Yining was thinking. She immediately covered her face and said loudly. Yi Qinghan, is this the truth? Yi Kuang sneered. He definitely did not believe Su Zimeng's words. He took the initiative to ask. Right and wrong are in the hearts of the people. If the Wang and Su clans think that they are stronger than me and can bully me like this, then let's see if I, Yi Qinghan, am the same trash as before. Yi Qinghan coldly replied. As expected of the 3 big clans of Wanshan town. My people went hunting and you dare to rob them. You even want to use your power to oppress others. This old man wants to see who can steal a rabbit today. Suddenly, a powerful aura enveloped the Yi clan's main gate, intimidating everyone. Even Yi Kuang's aura stagnated, not to mention the others. Su Yining and Wang Laoxi turned around and saw an old trembling body walking towards them. Their expressions changed greatly. The old man from the Spirit Treasures Pavilion also came. His face was full of disdain and ridicule. The old man who looked like he would be blown away by the wind actually intimidated the 3 big clans of Wanshan town. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. He could not help but be speechless. This old man was really a glutton. Instead of a parrot, he talked about a rabbit. So it's Mr. Sun. I didn't think that such a small matter in the Yi clan would disturb Mr. Sun. I feel uneasy. Yi Kuang quickly bowed. You feel uneasy? Is this your Yi clan's matter? This is clearly my matter. Qinghan has already entered the Spirit Treasures Pavilion and is one of my people. I let him come out to hunt. Your 3 clans really have guts. First, the young ones came to steal my prey. Now, the old ones are relying on their power to oppress my people. Do you think I'm too old to move? Old man Sun's voice was light, but it expressed his inner dissatisfaction. No. Absolutely not. How could the young ones dare to go against you? It's just a misunderstanding. Mr. Sun, please don't be angry. Su Yining waved his hands. There was panic in his eyes. He thought to himself, oh no, when did this trash get together with this stubborn old man? No. Just now, I clearly saw you shouting and wanting to kill. That bastard also admitted that you wanted to steal my prey. It's fine if you want to steal my parrot. It's not like you have much meat. Now, you want to steal my rabbit. You even want to beat my people. You've already done it and now you're telling me you don't dare. Old man Sun was unforgiving. He blew his beard and glared. Wherever he went, passers-by would retreat. Old man, what nonsense are you talking about? Do you think this divine bird is edible? How can a few lowly rabbits compare to me? You're insulting me, a naked insult. Apologize. The spirit-devouring divine parrot was furious. It didn't care how powerful this old man was. It just roared. Yi Qinghan sneered. He didn't stop the spirit-devouring divine parrot. He just watched the group of people and the bird fight. Some of the commoners in the crowd were amused by the spirit-devouring divine parrot. They all snickered. Old man Sun's face was slightly red. He glared at the arrogant parrot. Su Yining and Wang Laosi smiled. They were insufferably arrogant in front of the weak. But in front of the strong, they were subservient. Their image as commoners could be seen at a glance. Shut up. Otherwise, even if you don't have much meat, this old man will roast you. Old man Sun warned. The parrot was also a creature that bullied the weak and feared the strong. When it heard the threat, it didn't dare to refute. It muttered softly, wait until this divine bird recovers. I'll take care of you. Come, the three of you must give me an explanation today. Do you choose to compensate, or do you want me to bully you back with my strength? Old man Sun was very satisfied with the parrot's performance. He then turned his gaze to the Yi and Wang families. Compensation. We will compensate. We didn't mean to offend old mister. We will definitely compensate. Yi Kuang was the first to speak. The Spirit Treasures Pavilion was one of the top powers in Jiangning County. Even if they opened a small branch here, they were all in the 9th layer of the body refinement realm. They were at the peak of the martial artist realm. Even if the entire Wanshan town worked together, they still couldn't beat an old man. How could they dare to be arrogant? Mr. Sun, we will compensate. What kind of compensation do you want? Su Yining asked with a bitter smile. 2,000 taels of silver for each family. Give it to Yi Qinghan to calm his nerves. As for this old man, I'm magnanimous. I won't bicker with you juniors. Old man Sun said with disdain. 2,000 taels of silver. Su Yining and Wang Laosi's faces changed. Their children had been beaten until they were crippled. They hadn't received any compensation and now they had to pay 2,000 taels of silver. This was not a small number. It was equivalent to a good store's annual income. My Yi family is willing to compensate. Yi Kuang quickly replied. From his point of view, giving this money to Yi Qinghan would give face to Mr. Sun. The money would also be used by the Yi family's disciples. It would also make Yi Qinghan less hostile towards the Yi family. This was a perfect 3. Why not? What about your 2 families? So unwilling. Do you think it's too much or too little? Old man Sun asked coldly. It's not too much, not too little. My Su family will send the money to the Spirit Treasures Pavilion in a moment. Su Yining was helpless. He didn't dare to offend old man Sun. He could only spend money to avoid trouble. My Wang family is also willing to compensate. We will definitely send the money to your residence before today. Wang Laosi could only choose to accept. However, he was cursing Yi Qinghan in his heart. If I don't see 6,000 taels of silver tonight, I will visit each and every one of you. At that time, it won't be a problem that can be solved with money. Old Man Sun threw down a cold threat and said to Yi Qinghan, "Kid, why aren't you coming with me?" Chapter 12. One old and one young, one in front and one behind, silently walked towards the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. Yi Qinghan looked at Mr. Sun and felt warmth in his heart. This old man was a good person. If it wasn't for his help, even if he could kill all those people today, he wouldn't have survived. "Thank you, Mr. Sun," Yi Qinghan said respectfully. "Thank my ass. If you didn't bring back the rabbits today, this old man wouldn't have helped you even if you were beaten to death," Mr. Sun replied without any trace of politeness. Yi Qinghan smiled slightly. He knew that this old man had been lonely for too long. He didn't take it to heart and lightly said, "In order to repay the kindness of saving my life today, I'll roast 10 wild rabbits for you and brew you a cup of purple light wine." Purple light wine? What's that? Old Man Sun's eyes lit up. He couldn't be happy without wine. Hearing that Yi Qinghan knew how to brew wine, he immediately became happy. It's a type of spirit wine. Most people can't afford to drink it, Yi Qinghan lightly said. A mouthful of purple light wine was 1 gold tael, which was equivalent to 100 silver taels. A cup of purple light wine was worth 1,000 silver taels. This was still a priceless wine. In the entire Owl Falling Star, there weren't many people who could drink this wine. It wasn't that the price was high, but that there weren't many people who knew how to brew it. Good, good, good. You didn't waste this old man's love for you. Old Man Sun grinned. Yi Qinghan felt a chill. He was an old monster who was a few hundred years old. He had lived 2 lives. This Mr. Sun wasn't even 100 years old. Saying such words made him feel disgusted. Returning to the Spirit Treasures Pavilion, little Meng Shi jumped up and down. She finally had the fun that people her age should have. She was very happy. Seeing Yi Qinghan, Yi Mengshi happily said, "Big brother, I'm a cultivator at the first layer of the body refinement realm. I can protect mother now. Be good. Wait for big brother to teach you another technique tonight. Rest for now," Yi Qinghan gently said. Yi Mengshi's heart was filled with happiness. She felt that she could share her brother's burden. Old Man Sun looked at Yi Qinghan and felt that something was amiss. How could a good-for-nothing suddenly become so strong? Moreover, his cultivation technique was also very terrifying. Although he could not recognize the set of fist techniques that Yi Mengshi had executed, he knew that it was not lower than Tier 2. There's something strange about this guy. Although Old Man Sun had guessed a little, he knew that this was definitely Yi Qinghan's reverse scale, so he did not say anything. Yi Qinghan skinned and cleaned a portion of the rabbits. He gathered all the fur together and placed it outside to dry. He was preparing to make 2 good fur coats for Yi Mengshi and Wang Shi. Soon after, he began to soak the rabbit meat in ice water. Taking advantage of the free time, Yi Qinghan took out a dozen or so purple light fruits, filling the entire Lingbao Hall with their fragrance. "Give me a clean wine jar. The cleaner the better." Yi Qinghan looked at the dazed Old Man Sun and said directly. When Old Man Sun saw that it was wine brewing, he did not waste any time. The wine worm in his stomach had already begun to rebel. He quickly cleaned out a wine jar that could hold 10 jin. He even used his true qi to wash it, leaving no impurities behind. Yi Qinghan took the wine jar and crushed all the clear and clean purple light fruits into juice. Before the rich spiritual energy could dissipate, he used his true qi to seal the wine jar. This wine jar can be used for cultivation. Why don't I put a blood ginseng in it as well? Yi Qinghan had a flash of inspiration. He first sealed the wine jar and took out the blood ginseng. After washing it, he crushed it again and put it into the wine jar. "Help me boil a jar of clean water and then lower the temperature to 0. Use your true qi to boil it, don't use a match. Yi Qinghan looked at the drooling old man Sun and felt that this was free labor. It would be a waste not to use it. Alright. As long as there's good wine, this old man will listen to you. Old man Sun shook his head and cleaned another wine jar. He filled it to the brim and began to use his true qi to heat it up. A normal 9th level body refinement realm martial artist would not be able to use true fire, but they could still do simple things like boil water. The wine jar was protected by true qi. Old man Sun poured his true qi into the wine jar, causing the temperature of the water to quickly rise until it boiled. After quickly lowering the temperature, old man Sun passed the water to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan took the water but did not quickly pour it into the wine jar. Instead, he added a few spirit herbs and constantly stirred them, allowing the juices to fuse together. By 1.5 gene of pure alcohol. I have it at home. As a veteran alcoholic, how could he not have alcohol at home? If he didn't have any alcohol, he could brew some himself. Old man Sun took out a jar of pure alcohol and handed it to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and poured in 1.5 liters of alcohol, sealing the wine jug once more. Not a single strand of spiritual energy could escape. True energy rushed into the wine jug and stirred rapidly. Even the wine jug couldn't suppress the spiritual energy from spreading out. Huff huff huff, old man Sun quickly sniffed as if he was afraid the fragrance would escape. When the parrot saw the disheveled old man in such a state, it couldn't help but snort in disdain. After the purple light fruit juice and blood ginseng had completely fused with the alcohol, Yi Qinghan began to slowly pour water into the wine jar. When it was 90% full, he stopped. The purple light wine wasn't transparent like other wines. Instead, it was transparent with a purple glow, like a pearl. With the addition of the blood ginseng, its color might change, but the taste was purer and richer. Yi Qinghan began to use his true qi to slowly heat it up, but it didn't cause it to boil. It only accelerated the fusion. As his true qi was quickly consumed, Yi Qinghan's forehead was covered in sweat. After 2 hours, he sealed the wine jar and placed it into a large jar of wine to soak. Take it out in 6 hours and try the wine I brewed. You will feel that you have wasted your life drinking so much trash. Yi Qinghan said proudly. I can't wait. Old man Sun was drooling, wishing he could take it out and drink it right now. Let's make things clear first. Only 1/10 of this jar of wine is yours, but it's enough for you to break through the bottleneck and enter the blood ignition realm. If you want to drink the real purple light wine, then purchase the purple light fruit, smoked dragon fruit, stone milk essence and wine grass. I will be responsible for brewing the wine. After it's finished, we'll split it 30 to 70. I'll take 70% and you'll take 30%. Furthermore, you have to be responsible for selling my wine. 30,000 taels. Yi Qinghan had found a way to quickly make a fortune. This wine was very high quality, but the ingredients were not expensive. Not only was the taste excellent, it could also help practitioners below the bitter sea stage to quickly break through. 30,000 taels for a jar of wine. Rob me. Old man Sun was speechless. Ha! Is this considered robbing? Take it to a big city outside of Jiangning County and try it. If you don't have 100,000 taels, come find me if you can buy it. Yi Qinghan sneered disdainfully. Don't look at the few ingredients that were easy to learn. Even if a real winemaker personally watched him brew the wine, he would not be able to brew the real purple light wine. It would not have that kind of taste, let alone help people break through to the next realm. Wait, what did you just say? 1/10 of this jar of purple light wine can help me break through to the blood ignition realm? Old man Sun finally reacted and was shocked. He was already past his prime and his qi and blood had dried up. It was impossible for him to break through to the blood ignition realm. This bit of wine could help him break through, wasn't this a joke? You can try. Yi Qinghan could not be bothered to say anything more and directly walked to the back courtyard. Meng Shi, I'll teach you a secret technique. The circulation route and technique cannot be leaked, do you understand? Yi Qinghan pulled Meng Shi over and said in a deep voice. N. Yi Meng Shi nodded repeatedly. Qi refinement extreme heavenly yuan technique used qi to enter the Tao. In the early stages, one's battle strength was weak because true qi could not be transformed into true essence. However, once one entered the blood ignition realm, things would be different. True qi would be transformed into a liquid state. Combined with the extreme heavenly yuan technique, one's long-range and close-range attacks would be extremely sharp. Use your heart to feel the circulation route of the true qi in your body. Yi Qinghan's palms were pressed against Yi Mengshi's back. True qi slowly flowed through her 4 limbs and hundreds of bones. The strange circulation route caused her veins to expand and her entire body to heat up. This caused the true qi in her qi si to continuously expand and open up her qi si. Yi Mengshi's true qi became more and more majestic. With an unstoppable force, she broke through to the second layer of body refinement. A 5-year-old girl entering the second layer of body refinement would cause a sensation even in Jiangning County. True qi flowed through 36 large circulations, tempering her veins and opening up her qi si. Yi Mengshi benefited greatly. Yi Qinghan, on the other hand, was very tired because he had to be careful with every step. He was afraid that he would hurt the fragile Mengshi. Follow this circulation route of the true qi. Continuously accumulate true qi and use it to break through your body. During this period of time, your battle strength will not be on the same level as other body refinement cultivators. However, once you reach the blood ignition realm, you will be able to fight 10 or even more people of the same level. Yi Qinghan explained. And I will work hard. Yi Mengshi nodded seriously. I will first transmit a portion of the attack secret technique to your qi si. You cannot accept too much at once. First, practice 3 moves. Yi Qinghan used his spiritual consciousness to quickly enter Yi Mengshi's spiritual si. Yi Mengshi was still young and her soul spirit wasn't strong. Therefore, he didn't need to expend any effort and quickly imparted 18 of the 36 offensive moves of the Extreme Tao Heavenly Essence technique to Yi Mengshi. To be able to be named the Extreme Tao Heavenly Origin technique, its attack power was unparalleled. Yi Qinghan had once used it together with the Extreme Tao Divine Dragon Steps to become invincible and kill all those of the same level. Yi Qinghan was worried that Yi Mengshi was still young and would not be able to accept too much. The Extreme Tao Divine Dragon Steps consumed too much energy and would damage her foundation. Thus, he did not pass it to her. Yi Qinghan, come out. Silver is here. Old man Sun shouted from outside the main hall. He seemed to be full of energy. It was obvious that he was excited by the news that there was hope for him to enter the blood ignition realm. Yi Qinghan walked into the main hall. Seeing that Yi Kuang had actually come personally, he frowned and said indifferently, "There is no need for you to come personally for such a small matter." AI. Qinghan, uncle knows that you hate the Yi clan. However, I have my own reasons for not helping you. I hope you can understand. Yi Kuang was sad. There were many things that he wanted to say in his heart. It's not that serious. I have no feelings for the Yi clan nor do I hate them. Mr. Yi is overthinking. Yi Qinghan spoke his mind. This Yi clan was different from the 5th-rank Great Clan. He really had no feelings for them. Mr. Yi. Yi Kuang's mouth twitched. He bitterly smiled and shook his head helplessly. It doesn't matter if you recognize me as your uncle or the Yi clan. However, your father is still a member of the Yi clan. His memorial tablet is still in the Yi clan. Do you have no feelings for him? Don't you want to know why your father died? Don't you want to avenge him? Your disaster was caused by your father's murderer. Don't you want to seek justice for yourself? Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched. Although his mother was a cheap mother, his sister was a cheap sister, and his father was definitely a cheap father, he had promised the late Yi Qinghan that he would inherit his body. That meant that he would inherit everything, including his hatred. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.